All right. We are back for another awesome week on In the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio. We're glad to have you guys with us again. Big shout out to the crew, Chef Rodney of Deliciously Dope TV. He'll be bringing us his strain of the week later this episode, and also Thomas Markholm of Vermont Grow Coaching, who's going to bring us another great grower's guide. If you guys ever miss these episodes when we're going live there, you can always find them on our YouTube page. So we're going to give a little plug to our YouTube page, and you guys can go find these guys through all these links and support their shows. And we always post them back on our Facebook page as well. So if you guys ever miss an episode, we can be easily found. Today we have a great special guest that we're really excited about. We have Shadi Ramey on, who just came out with a brand new cookbook, which is amazing, right? And the cookbook is Hemp Can Change the World. There's a lot of first and unique things about this cookbook, which we'll touch on here shortly. But first of all, let's say hi to Shadi. And Shadi, you have a great history, right? You've been around the planet a long time. So first of all, tell everybody who you are, where you're from, your whole culture. How cannabis? Why a cookbook?
That's so many questions. I have a background in cultural anthropology. That was like my training for school. And so, and I started smoking herb when I was, probably a little bit too young, and then had a pretty serious relationship with psychedelic drugs in my late teens and early 20s, and really did shape, pretty much set my foundation, kind of like my root chakra, my ethos in life. And so I've had this relationship with cannabis. And my background is in anthropology. I am a self-taught chef. I started doing chef work around 2005. And I've been doing lots of work with food. And then in 2014, there was a ballot initiative in Colorado to label GMOs. And so I got really involved in that, getting signatures and talking to people, and just really wanted to be able to empower people enough to know that there were GMOs in their food and that they could make an educated decision as a consumer. And
Oh, I think we lost a little bit of
audio.
Oh no, we lost your audio.
If you know sign language, it's a good time to put that to use.
Right.
There you are.
There it is.
Okay, good. And then so before that, it was local food systems, organic, non-GMO, and then the body care stuff really hit my radar in 2014. Holy shit. I wanted to make a body cream that we could eat that was vegan, that didn't have endocrine, adrenal, menstrual cycle disruptors, which are in regular creams, and your skin is your largest organ and all this fucking horrible cancer and everything. And so I made this cream, and then I just gave it out as gifts. And then in the fall, we wanted to open a dispensary here, THC dispensary. And it was super cost prohibitive. We were pretty shocked. We're holy shit, there's no way we're gonna be able to do that. And we didn't really know about big funding and stuff like that yet. And we decided not to do that. And someone was like, hey, someone's making a hemp coffee. And I was like, what is that? What does that even mean? So we found the people and we went to their farm, and we're like, this is the worst farm we've ever seen. We're gonna make a farm. Mm-hmm. We grow plants and medicine, and I had grown food and medicinal herbs. So anyways, started doing that in 2015, got a license in Colorado, and just started living with cannabis every day and having access to it, and started juicing it, and then bringing hemp hearts into, just creating stuff and researching and trying lots of stuff that didn't work, and really wanting to go beyond smoothies and sprinkles and doing high vibe, really elevated boutique shit that was hemp based. And then that was the impetus for the cookbook. And that cream I was telling you about ended up becoming the first vegan hemp intimacy cream by accident, which changed my whole life. Then I was the CEO of this company for the cream, and I've had to get that to a certain spot so that I could get back to my food work and do the cookbook. And so now the cookbook is ready to roll, and just super, super grateful for the platform and the opportunity to do that.
Right. Now, it's a great story to lead up to a cookbook, but how the hell do you pull off a cookbook? I mean, all of us want to make a cookbook, right? I mean, especially this cookbook, because again, you have a lot of firsts. Like we were talking right before the show about the paper it's even printed on, right?
Yep. So hemp paper. So I do believe that it's one of the only books ever printed on hemp. There weren't very many books printed on hemp. And certainly not in the last 100 years. And definitely the first cookbook. And I think that, you know, when I first went, it was like a year ago when I reached out to some people I know that are like leaders. You know, people say they're leaders in this industry all the time and talk shit and say they're somebody and they're really not, you know, like that happens a lot. I find in this industry more than any other like professional experience I've ever had in my life. Mm-hmm. But, you know, so I reached out to these people who print on hemp and I'm like, I need to get some info on printing my book on hemp. And they're like, no, it's not cost effective. Just go do it on recycled paper. And I was like, you know, what the fuck? That sucks. Like, this is a real opportunity, man. And we need to be the change and we need to show leadership and we need to make these decisions right now. We need to give a fuck about the earth, like more than anything is what we need to do right now. So then that started like, you know, I'm stubborn and insubordinate. And so then it started this journey of like, I'm going to print it on hemp paper now, no matter what. And against a lot of adversity, because it's like super expensive and hard to do. Almost no one does it.
Right. Now, is the printing process a completely different process as well, being that it's on hemp paper? Did you have to find that also?
Well, I just working with a printer that I know, so I'm not sure about all that, but I wanted to just mention that another reason why I wanted to do it on the hemp paper was because I started out with like all about my ego. Like I really wanted this like big fat cookbook that was like super bougie pictures and like just stroke the ego. And then I found out that the printing industry, publishing industry is one of the most toxic industries on earth. And that was like part of the whole, you know, like what they say about fracking, like once you know, you can't not know. And so that is another reason I wanted to do it like that.
Right. It does pose a problem when you find out how dirty some of these industries can be when you're trying to create like you said, you try to like create the least amount of carbon footprint you can with a really unique book, right? And there's not a lot of people that help you. It's too bad to see the expense of hemp, right? I mean, we talk about a lot in our show, and to find a lot of these options. I mean, some of the shirts and products that we see based out of hemp are not really all that cheap. You know what I mean? Like, you know, to find a $60 hemp t-shirt versus a $15 t-shirt, that's common, right?
Right.
And we talk about a lot in America because we don't have the processing places that can actually make deal with the fibers. They can put in the paper. A lot of it comes from overseas, right?
Right. But again, it's like, you know, we have to, you know, we need to be conscious consumers. We need to be conscious entrepreneurs. Like, what are we going to invest in right now? You know, that's that technology that we want. Like, we make a decision as like a group of people on the planet. Like, this is how we want to drive the future. This is what we want to spend our money on. This is the infrastructure that we need. So I think, again, like a lot of stuff comes down to like the decisions that we make every day. And that's the other part of the book is like, I'm a big nerd and I'm an activist, and it is a call to action on different levels to like increase your own vitality, to vote with your dollars, to do the right thing when no one's looking. Yeah, that's all a part of the book as well.
Yeah, and like you said, you share a lot of experiences with it. Now, most of your recipes in the book are utilizing the hemp plant, correct?
Yep, there's many of them have hemp hearts. And there's some with hemp, like juicing hemp, hemp leaf, like for making teas. But for the most part, it is, and then also full spectrum extract. There's a chapter on that.
Nice.
With like a yummy drink.
You discuss a lot with it. Now, how has hemp impacted your diet? Like, I mean, obviously you partake in hemp diet. You wrote a cookbook. What are the benefits of eating hemp for people?
Well, the benefits are numerous. I mean, hemp is the high vibe. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
You can? Okay, good. Hemp is the high vibe, you know, food that we've been waiting for. And it's like super, like excellent for nutrition, as a plant-based nutrition. I mean, 3 tablespoons of hemp hearts have 11 grams of protein. That is like a monster per gram on a gram basis between animal products. So I would say, you know, like for like a high vibe diet, hemp is excellent. Hemp is excellent for essential fatty acids. Hemp is excellent for your hair, your skin, your nails. Hemp is an excellent source of fiber. Hemp is where it's at. You know, we can all benefit by we can all increase our vitality by incorporating hemp into our diet. It's like a super simple thing that we can do.
Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, like you just said, it's a super simple thing to incorporate in your diet. Why do you think people aren't doing it more now? Is it just something that we're still kind of stigmatic to? Is it something that people are afraid to, like, it's like a new ingredient, how do I cook it kind of a thing?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. I mean, there's still a lot of like, you know, I mean, I've been to like cannabis events in the South and people are like, oh, you know, like they don't even know how to behave. Like they've been like against the marijuana, you know, for so long. And then they're like, oh, it's hemp, which pisses me off because I'm like, it's the same fucking plant, you know, like when people were pro drug war people, those people want to be in the hemp industry. Like I want to like fisticuffs those fuckers, but that's another show. So yeah, I think there's like turning people onto it, like education, empowering people. And I think that, you know, which is another reason why I wanted to write the book, is that there isn't this like high level of hemp in gastronomy that I've noticed at all. And so that's why I wanted to create the book, to put it out there. So it's like, we're not making, like, hemp smoothies are amazing. I love it. That's a great way to do it. Putting some hemp seeds on your salad, of course, but like, this is not that. This is like Persian fat bombs, like with rose and cardamom. And cannabis is also like a Kush. It's from the Kush. Like, so am I. Cannabis is Persian, and me too. So there's lots of like Middle Eastern stuff in there. And yeah, so it's like a totally different level, a totally different vibe with some really, I think, and things that are like approachable and easy. They're not like super hard to make, but at the end of it, it's like you have something that's like high vibe, high vitality, and delicious.
Right. I mean, that's half the reason why I have Chef on the show, right? He does a really unique part of bringing that cannabis to an actual, like a fine dining plate. You know what I mean? Something you expect in a higher end restaurant, because like you said, that's not there right now, right? We see all these like little edibles and this little fun stuff, but like, you know, another thing to talk about is dinners, right? Like you've done dinners as well. Like what has been your response to the book? Has a lot of people looked at you kind of funny because again, we have that stigma, or a lot of people like, wow, this is great?
Well, I think it's like two questions, right?
Yep.
One is about the book. I think a lot of people are definitely like, say what? Like they think they're gonna like eat weed. Somebody asked me if they're gonna like, they can roll up the book and smoke it. I mean, it's like, you know, like I've heard all kinds of shit, you know, that's like, but I think a lot of people are stoked, you know, and people have been like home in COVID and like people want to cook food. And I just think that having like a book that like has this, it does like have lots of good nerdy info in there. And it's like, you can hold it and it's hemp and it's going to get stains on it. And it's like, it's something like people are excited about. And I think that going into the holidays, you know, what else are we going to do?
Right. No, I mean, unfortunately, due to COVID, it sucks and all in general, but it's a great time to release a cookbook. You hit it right in the head. We're all home. We're all experimenting. I think we saw a lot of people put plants in the ground this summer that would never probably put a plant in the ground because they're home alone and they're going, hey, what can I do to pass time? And here's a great opportunity, right? We talk about with Thomas a lot where we see people that are really trying to do that this summer, right? And now
I was actually going to mention that, Joe. There are plenty of people. I mean, Vermont being one of the most forgiving states when it comes to hemp laws, you can obtain a hemp license for yourself as long as you're not going to sell the hemp for $25 and grow as much of it as you want. Only $25. As long as I'm not going to sell it, I have 20 acres. I can spend $25 and grow 20 acres of hemp as long as I'm not selling it to anybody. I can give it away, but as long as I'm not making $1 off it, it's only $25 for that license. Well, guess what? $25, pretty much anybody can handle that. And if you can't, you probably don't have the yard to be able to put the plant in to begin with.
Right.
So in that respect, you know, having your cookbook on hand is fantastic for some of these people who tried their hand at it just because they wanted to try their hand at it this year. They may not be cannabis consumers. They may not be interested in CBD at all. But being able to get a hold of something like your cookbook and look at it and say, oh, well, I can try this and I can try this. Oh, well, if I do it this way, it's not really like consuming cannabis because I'm not smoking it and I'm not eating a brownie. So in that respect, it definitely ends a lot of that stigma too.
Right.
Yeah.
No, well, my next question would be is like, so say I am that person that put a plant in the ground. If I buy the book, does it walk me through the procedure to go from like the basically process to table? You know what I mean? Like,
No, that would be Thomas's book.
we like that too.
No, it's not like an all exhaustive book on cannabis, like in that way at all. It's like, you know, I'm spending time talking about like a high vibe kitchen and what that means, you know, different kinds of like tools and equipment, you know, some super nerdy tidbits on cannabis, in general, historical stuff, some cultural stuff, like it's kind of like that. And then each recipe has a story, and then the recipe. So it's pretty fun. I think people, I'm really hoping that people are going to enjoy it.
Oh,
I haven't had a chance to order your book yet, so I'm definitely going to be doing so. But I do have a quick question.
Yes.
With your recipes, are they all decarboxylated recipes, or some of them decarbed and some of them non-decarbed, or?
Well, so none of the recipes include any ingredients like that. Most of the recipes are based on hemp hearts.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's hemp leaf, and then there's full spectrum extract, and then there's hemp seed oil. Those are the 4 ways. So there isn't anything that's been decarboxylated or anything, nothing like that's happening in there. It's like vegan, gluten-free, like everyday cookbook that is based on hemp.
I absolutely love that. The hemp hearts and the leaves, especially. I always encourage all of my customers and clients to take the leaves that they're defoliating their plants with and use them to consume in their foods. And then the hemp hearts too. I used to weigh 296 pounds, and one of the ways I lost the weight was 2 tablespoons of hemp hearts in a cup of yogurt every morning for breakfast, and that was all I needed to get through until lunch.
Right.
That's amazing.
It is amazing.
That's amazing.
So I guess that poses the next question for most of the listeners is, you know, it may sound silly to ask, but like, we can eat raw cannabis leaves, can't we?
We can, and I don't want to shit all over everybody, but it's probably one of the best things that you can add it to your day to make you have high vitality, is juicing cannabis. What do you think, Chef?
Oh, you're muted, bud.
Okay, yeah, my stupid mic's muted. I'm sorry. All kinds of problems over here. So check it out. There are so many. Okay, so with the cannabinoids and terpenes that we're finding and the medicinal properties we're finding with cannabis, we're also finding nutritional benefits as well that we've kind of already known that were there, but what were they? You know what I'm saying? We really didn't have any like a really clairvoyant, like this is what they do. Now check it out. You guys, you know, I'm thinking the same medicinal benefits that we know and love from consuming it via, you know, orally and stuff like that. Those are the same medicinal benefits, y'all, that you're getting from consuming it. You understand? Consuming it doesn't change how it gets into your body. You have to understand they're called medicinal benefits, which means that they were tested inside your body. So as long as you're getting it inside your body, you're going to get those medicinal benefits. I just want to clear that up. That being said, flavor is something that we're starting to notice an abundance of. Okay. Again, different terpenes have different smells. You get the idea. I'm learning all about that and doing strain of the week. You know, I love it. For example, this week, and you may not get to catch the clip, but I'm doing Jesus OG. Now that's got like a hoppy, you know, scent to it a little bit. I thought fish because, you know, Jesus, the hole in the hand, you know, you get the idea. It's very cheesy. It's a dad joke. Sue me. The point is, I came up with a recipe of putting that, you know, in a lemon dill butter in the fish. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is, you do it, it would work. With the dill, that's what you use to bridge it. And so if you really think about the medicinal benefits of, you know, Jesus OG, I've now given you those without having to smoke or eat a brownie or whatever, but I put that in your food. That's just it. So there's going to be, guys, mark my fucking words here. There's going to be, you know, all kinds of bullshit Atkins diets. There already are. They're like, oh, hey, you take this tincture, it's made with this CBD, you'll lose 20 pounds in a week. And people are buying it up because they're not educating themselves. So let's recap the medicinal benefits of consuming food orally with, with cannabis in it. Okay. To masticate, if you want to use a word here. Okay. Those are the same medicinal benefits at a stronger capacity than there are, smoking and orally and stuff. So if you read again and you're like, yo, it helps with this, it helps with that, it's going to help with the same thing, but on a better level because of a better absorption rate.
Right. I mean, I think a lot of what we talked about already is unique because bringing it to a higher level, like as a chef, you're a
Absolutely.
chef, looking at like just what's in our food, right? We mentioned like rosemary, we mentioned other things that actually have endocannabinoids in it, right? Like,
yeah,
people
and cannabis is one of the like very like you want to talk about from like farm seed to table. You can't you like there's you can grow it outside and then chop it down like any other herb you would in your garden. It takes a little bit longer to grow, and if you just so happen to set it on fire, there's some side effects that we all know is the entourage effect. But the point is, you take it from your garden, you put it on the damn plate. It's that simple, It's just another ingredient. But here's the best part, and then I'm going to shut the hell up. This is going to save the restaurant industry. Quote me there. I'm serious.
I mean, I think it's going to have a really huge impact to it once we can get it to the point where it's legal enough and all of our guidelines are outlined.
United States is already turning green, baby. You feel me? Look at the victories we made last night. Tim, you know all about what I'm talking about.
Oh, we're going to have lots of conversations about that there.
Weed.
Yeah, right.
Oh, it went green, baby.
That's the best thing I got to say.
What do you think about the whole
live in Oregon, methamphetamines and mushrooms as well. In fact, I think I'm moving to Portland pretty soon now.
Right, we're going to be talking about psychedelics in our foods as well. I mean, the biggest thing about food is just knowing what you're using, right?
Exactly.
And how much what you're using has in it, right? Whether it's THC, CBD. I'd imagine a lot of these recipes could cross over to a THC. Not, you could use a THC, a cannabis, a CBD plate. But the biggest thing to remind everybody about is just to know your levels, right? Like,
absolutely,
don't get carried away with putting too much in your food because as it hits you, it can hit you hard. It can last a long time. Like we've talked about some nightmares with edibles down the road, and this can be a lot different. So
here's how edibles work. Okay, great. I'm fine. Take me to the emergency room. Okay, so if you know that, you know your limit. I mean, check it out. Sunflower lectin is like one of the most fastest absorbers out there. You put it in things. It's a binder. In addition to, it allows for faster absorption.
Wait, did you say sunflower butter?
Lectin.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Add that to your butter. Okay, I magical butter. I got a machine this week. Okay, listen, I done messed up, y'all. So they suggested that you don't use keef. Okay, well, it ain't gonna hurt it. It doesn't. So when you clarify your butter and you add keef to it and then you sift it again through a micron, it destroys the butter, but it just doesn't look as clean. Whatever. I don't care. I knew that. I had to get rid of this keef. I put up an entire ounce of keef in there. All right. So I did it all. Well, the problem is when you use keef and you do it right, like decarboxylating it right and things like that, which if anybody's got any questions about decarboxylation, me, Joe can help you. Thomas, you can help them. Shadi, you can help them. Tim, you know who to talk to. All right.
I can tell you why it works. I can't tell you how,
Exactly.
That's about my limit.
And what Google said, you know what I mean? Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. You're like, no, I got people. They know. Fuck, I don't need to know. But anyways, so you do it all right. And the butter comes out stronger. So I went really low and slow, 160 for like 2 hours. So 160 only really kills, if I remember correctly, the tail end of CBD and a few THC starters. That's fine. That's not where I wanted to go. I wanted to ride that mushroom wave. You feel me? Like get down to the good Delta 9. That's really what I wanted.
Low and slow.
Exactly. So I pulled it out and I ate a tab of butter, not knowing how strong it was. Well, then I started feeling like just everything draining, like it was coming. It was coming and I could feel it. So then my girlfriend thinks it would be brilliant just to shove Dayquil down my throat and take me to Costco. That was
What?
not fun.
Is this your story?
Well, all right.
Don't do that.
Well, again, that's the danger of edibles, right? I mean, so when people make with their food, right? One thing I wanted to ask Thomas about again was decarboxylation. We brought it up a few times. So people don't understand what decarboxylation is. Like when you eat raw cannabis, right, Thomas? It's a different cannabinoid than THC. Can you discuss that for listeners?
Absolutely. So you have your CBDAs, your THCAs, all of your A cannabinoids. Those are going to be your cannabinoids that are not going to get you any sort of intoxication. They are going to be medicinally beneficial. They are going to help heal your body, heal your cells, but they're not going to make you feel like you've smoked a joint or anything along those lines. Now, once you decarboxylate those cannabinoids, it really depends on what the cannabinoid is. D8, delta 9, or D8, D9. So THC, you look at THC delta 8, a lot of people are looking into that now, like, that's our loophole to get around delta 9. But it really doesn't give you the same effects. Yes, it does give you a euphoria, but it's not the same euphoria. With that said, THCA in its raw form isn't going to give you that euphoria at all. Whereas whether you're using delta 9 or delta 8, either one is going to give you at least some sort of euphoria if it's been properly decarbed. With that said, there are several different ways you can decarb. You can do a partial decarb, a long decarb, slow decarb at 240 or 250 degrees, or even down as low as 205, 210 if you want to retain a little bit more of the terpenes and not convert quite as much of it. Personally, I like to go somewhere in between, usually around 230, 235 or so, for anywhere for 20 to 40 minutes, depending on my end goal and how thick the product is I'm using. But I mean, I absolutely love the finished effects. I met up with Eric from Can of Organics yesterday, and one of the things he dropped me along with a care package of empty mason jars was a whole bunch of one-to-one caps. So these are absolutely fantastic. Some of it's decarb, some of it's not, but it's one-to-one. So there's a nice amount of CBD in there as well as THC. And most people, they take probably one or two of these and it'll make them feel good. I have a really high tolerance, so I'm actually going to take 5 for myself right now.
Whoa.
No, don't tell him not to, because he's just going to do it again.
Something we like to do on the show.
His ass smashed a really potent edible, like 225 milligrams to the dome, went to his daughter's birthday party, forgot he ate the edible, and ate another one.
No.
Yeah, it was good.
You can't say no, it already happened. We seen it.
No, it was great. It was fantastic. It was a great time. See, I preach this all the time.
Yeah.
Drunk dads are sucky dads.
Yeah.
Cannabis dads are not.
You want
when
that
it comes
toy
down to it provides more compassion.
First.
It makes you able to deal with the loud noises better and all the crap that the kids can throw at you, like, oh, dad, this, blah, 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 blah. You can go and enjoy a birthday party with 5 or 6 kids and not have to worry about it and still be able to enjoy yourself. and at the end, you just go and take a nice long nap.
There you go. Shadi, I did forget. So how do I get a copy of this book? You got a website?
Yep. Right now we're still in pre-sales, and you go to hempcanchangetheworld.com.
Perfect.
And the book is going to be released in a couple weeks, and everybody will get their copy. And there's also some farm events on there, farm to table dinners. And lots of info about the project and the carbon neutrality, and there's some reviews on there about people who have looked at the book and what they have to say about it. And check it out.
Dude, so I'm going to go pick one up. You do me a favor. I'll let you know which one I buy. If you just so happen to maybe autograph that.
Yes.
I will just so happen to.
All the pre-sales.
There you go.
I'll let you know,
Okay.
The point is, if I get me one of them books, I'm going to make a recipe out of it.
There we go.
Yes,
we have to do it on the show.
Let's do a show of you when you're making it, and we can just kind of chit chat and go through it. It'd be fun.
Absolutely.
That'd be awesome.
You can do bloopers.
I smoke all the time. It's funny. It's just, absolutely. There's bloopers right now. Look at me. I'm putting my foot, meat, mouth. That's where it's at.
That's what we do all the show. The cool, unique thing though is you said you're going to be doing farm to table dinners, and we discussed that too, because you're going like on a tour, right, with the book to do table dinners. We talked about coming to Vermont because that's where I'm located, and Thomas and Timothy. Chef, I know you're going to be talking about going to Michigan. And even up to Canada for a few events, which is really cool and unique because it's that time, right? Hopefully COVID will be better at that point in time where we can actually enjoy and sit down and come together as a community again, without being limited by any measures or means. And again, like, there's a lot of talk about, I think a lot of people are really looking at changing their diets now. I think a lot of people are really looking at what's poisoning them. They're looking at these processed
it would be
foods.
smart
Like,
if they did so.
right. Like what we talked about, when we get to this kind of level of cooking, it's like home cooking, right? It's healthy cooking. It's straight to the soul food. And like you said, the ingredients in it are also beneficial to you. They're not processed. It's not, crap that you're buying in a box that they made for you. And again, with the COVID, I think a lot of people, like you said, are buying up cookbooks, are trying new things. They're learning how to cook. They're learning how to do a new career or something of any nature, whether it's, a podcast or anything, right? Like, and right now, hemp is like one of the number one things we talk about, cannabis, all these great things. So, and then being a hemp product itself, being with the paper, like we talked about, the book is made with hemp, right? It creates a really cool nostalgia around the book, which is awesome. So I just want to say awesome for making this book, because a lot of people, like I said, it sounds silly, but like a lot of people are really intimidated by using that in cooking, you know what I mean? And like, Thomas says that there's a lot of concerns and people have stigmas of, hey, my friend ate a brownie the other day and he was a mess. I don't want to go home and cook with cannabis, but there's also the people that want to know how to make butter, how to make oil, how to consume it properly. And I think the raw side of it gets left out a lot. Like you said, we talk about the leaf, right? Juicing the leaf, how much beneficial nutrients and cannabinoids. Cannabinoids, we can talk about all day long, right from the bud to the root, right? It's a highly viable plant. Even the seeds, like we talk about hemp seeds, we talk about making hemp oil, right? And those processes, like we're seeing it being used for feed and livestock, right? We're actually seeing it come to a culinary front, I guess you could say. And through legalization, I know a lot of people have taken stumbling blocks. We see people trying to open up cafes and be really cool and unique about it, but with our federal standards and laws and banking and all these things, there's a lot of roadblocks in the way. But to be able to get a cookbook and do it at home on your own, right, is really unique. Like Thomas said, and we talked about earlier, everybody seems to have a plant in the window somewhere, right? Under a light somewhere. So, being able that, especially for patients, right? Thomas works with a lot of patients. We all have talked to and worked with a lot of patients, and we encourage them all to grow your own, right? That's the biggest thing we'll tell everybody: grow your own, right? Is there an expense to it? Sure, but like that's why you got to figure out what you're going to do with it. Like if you're just doing it as a side project, great. We know lots of people that just took it up as side projects, but to be able to bring it in your home, cook with it, feed your family, and not be worried, have a stigma. Am I
pull it up and smoke it if they're assholes? Yeah, absolutely.
But that's the beauty of the plant, right? So now, guys, hempcanchangetheworld.com. Great website. It gives you a bunch of history on Shadi. Tells you a lot about the book. And you're even giving away, you're giving back to the community, right? Like you're taking $1 of your proceeds and donating it, correct?
Yes, to the Last Prisoner Project.
Which is awesome. So another good reason to go buy this book, guys.
Really great organization.
Yeah, fantastic organization. I want to make sure we gave them a plug today because again,
may I say one thing? May I say one thing about that?
Sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we are launching our tour on the weekend of 420 weekend on 4/17/21 in San Francisco. I'll be doing a 5-course hemp farm to table dinner there. That's a Kush dinner. I'm sorry. So that will be pairing with Kush strains, and we're going to be exploring the Kush through food and music and the vibration. And so 11% of that whole evening is going to the Last Prisoner Project.
Absolutely. That's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah, we're so stoked.
Yeah, the Last Prisoner Project, again, like we all just said, it's something we all love, we stand by, and it's awesome that you're giving proceeds back, especially on a cookbook, because it's not like, there's a huge amount of money to be made on a book right now in this day and age, right? Especially like you said. Yeah, right. There's an expense to make the book on paper, like you said. It's a really cool, unique book. I have cookbooks still from when I went to culinary school and before. Like you said, they've been used. They've been to a kitchen. You can tell they've been through a battle and back, but that's what gives them the charm and the character. Now you had mentioned that on all your pre-sales again that you would give signed copies. So if you guys are tuning in right now and you want to jump on the pre-sales, you can go to hempcanchangetheworld.com, get your order in. and then get your book signed, which would be really cool. I know a lot of people are messaging me right now wondering where we can get the book, how they can get the book. Well, now you guys know where to get the book. It's not on a shelf yet, but it's coming. So hopefully you guys can get your first signed copies now. We are giving away a book as well, which I'll figure out who the winner is here shortly. So we do have a book giveaway for the show. So if, guys, when you win, just be patient because, like I said, it's a pre-order. You can get the book. Now, what is your favorite recipe with hemp?
It's really, really hard. I can't pick a favorite. I could pick like a few.
Mhm.
Like there is like, this is the vibe. So there's one smoothie only in the whole book, right? Which I think is a testament to how it's more about gastronomy and not like sprinkling hemp seeds. And that's a Manipura chakra smoothie, and that has like different Ayurvedic herbs because that's like something that I've like studied and really care about. So there's like, that's my favorite, one of my favorite drinks. Then there's like a few mushroom and hemp recipes because they go really well together, both savory and sweet.
Mm-hmm.
You lost your audio.
We gotta love the in and outs of the technology that we're all using now, right? If it ain't me or you or them, it's somebody, right?
Hemp crumble.
Oh, sorry, Shadi, we missed that last little bit from you there. You were on pause.
I was just saying the strawberry rhubarb hemp crumble is my favorite, one of my favorite desserts in there.
Oh, that
sounds divine.
Thank you so much. So that's kind of the vibe. That's what the recipes are like. Definitely a bunch of Middle Eastern stuff, and yeah, pestos and kale chips and nettle chips and shit with purslane. Like it's kind of funky like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. It's yummy.
Well, that's what we like to hear. I mean, hopefully, when your book gets released and you get going, we would love to extend an invitation to the ricknilive.com, which is ricknile.live, which is a website that we are putting a lot of like cool, unique cannabis things onto. And we'd love to be involved with that with the Last Prisoner project in some way. So we should discuss that after the show. Again, we're all about giving back to the community. That's one of the best things about this cannabis community, I think, is a lot of us, we all come from different backgrounds. We all have been through a war, so we all have a little bit in common here, right? Because, up until the last few years, we've all been underground. We've all been working within our little areas of things. And now with legality around the corner, it's really interesting to see, nothing kills me more than people saying we need to do more research, right? Like we've been researching this for years, guys, right? And prior to, federal, going, prohibition, right? This was a very viable plant. We were using it a lot. We're using it in medicine. We're using it in food. For a while, the government made you grow hemp, right? So it's like how we don't have the technology or the resources or the understanding or even some of the research on the plant just kills me, right? Because it seems like we're starting from zero on something that we've known for years, right? We've made cars, we made fuel, you know what I mean? And again, our underground, which has been a very strong underground, has been using it for years. There's no deaths attributed to it, right? And which is the great thing. And like you're saying, one of the great things about this cookbook right now is I think our opioid issue in the country, right? Like, a lot of people that I've talked to on opioids are looking for an answer. We see that cannabis is a great answer for that, right? So this is another outlet for them to go home and utilize something that most people do every day, which is cooking, right? So get it into your diets. We talked to I love talking to Dr. Bob because the guy, he's like 80 years old, he bounces off a wall, has more energy than anybody, and he attributes it to his diet, right? He attributes everything from your mentality to your physicality to everything to do with you to your diet, right? And I think more and more research that comes out, we're realizing that sugars are not good for you. We got a lot of these a lot of these chemicals used in the processing of foods are not good for you. We're realizing what some of these ingredients really mean there on the back of these boxes that nobody ever reads, right? So again, I think there's a huge push for everybody to create a healthy living now, you know what I mean? And again, mental stress, it all combines to what you ingest in your body. We talk about it all the time, which again, this is a really cool, unique angle on bringing and breaking the stigma in your home, right? Because obviously if you have kids, You know what I mean? That's one of the next big stigmas everybody talks about. Like, you can feed hemp to your kids, right? Like, it's not going to hurt them, correct?
No, the whole book is kid approved. I have 3 kids, and they ate a shit ton of hemp seeds over the last 5 years. And that's just the way. I mean, they were even like, I'm tired of eating hemp. And I was like, you are? Really? You know, like, shoot. So yeah, it's kid approved. And I think that, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, actually this year, it was the first year since 2015 that I didn't have a hemp license. And Thomas, the license here, the first year I did it was 2015. It was $125, and now it's $500. And they get your lat long, and they want to know where all your shit's at, and you have to do the 0.3%, and it just sucks. So I just grew straight up THC plants, and so my son's like, "Can I eat these leaves?" You know, and I'm like, "Not too many," you know. So
yeah,
I think it's,
sorry, go ahead.
no, it's okay. I was just saying, I think it's really important to, you know, of course, get kids into farming and playing in the dirt and soil and understanding where their food's coming from. And, you know, like hemp as a plant-based protein is like, it's amazing. And so getting that into their diet, like in the cookbook, there's like brownies, there's all kinds of like yummy things that they wouldn't even know has any hemp in there at all. Like, it's just, but it's like super, like a little fat bomb is like really good for their little brain and has like a bunch of protein and fiber. And like, that's like what we want our kids to be eating, what's in the cookbook. Yeah. Because most American people don't even really eat food. They don't, right. They have no vitality. They look like shit. Everyone's super fucking dehydrated and looks haggard as fuck. And so I think that we are what we eat. Right? We are, that's like, is our food is medicine. And that's the component of the building blocks of everything that we are. And so I think that, you know, especially during COVID coexistence, I mean, someone at the beginning of COVID, like an elder was like, no, your immune system is your responsibility. That's what she kept saying. And I was like, that's so true. Like, we can't be waiting for some big brother and like some vaccine and to come save us and like do all this shit. Like, we need to be like being vital and like eating super healthy, clean food and like feeding that to our children, you know, and hemp is a great way to do that, to your point.
So my kids were actually homeschooled this year, specifically because of COVID. And one of the things I was able to do with them, you know, the past few years, they were able to come and help a little bit with harvest, a little bit here and there. But this year they were able to help a considerable amount, being on the farm every day that I was. And one of the farms we worked with ended up seeding out pretty bad. So the kids actually spend a fair amount of their time going through and just grabbing a branch, shaking some seeds in their hand and just popping them into the mouth and crunching on them, seed, outer shell and all, no problem. And I had no issues with it because it's a healthy snack. It provides them beneficial vitamins. And at the end of the day, they weren't asking for McDonald's.
Of course.
What's unique about what you said, though, it's you know, for a long time, muffins, spaghetti sauce, like a lot of these things that nobody even thinks about. You can hide zucchini and cannabis and all these really beneficial mushrooms, and like everyone's like, oh, my kid won't eat it. Well, you just process it in a way that they don't know it's in there, right? They don't taste it. We used to make zucchini muffins. My kid ate them all the time. You know what I mean? Like a hemp muffin would be something I would probably buy at a store. You know what I mean?
So
like,
good.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's not like you're eating leaf in a muffin. You know, people get the wrong ideas sometimes, and they don't think about like the usages of this plant. You know, like we talk with Rodney every week about, that's part of the segment. You know, how can we utilize a certain strain? And for us, especially if you're a patient, right? Thomas works with patients all the time. He helps them with grows. He helps them figure out how they can benefit utilizing this plant. And, you know, we talk about all the time, certain strains really affect people in different ways, and they all have their different beneficials to utilizing that plant. And that's why we do strain of the week. Everybody thinks it's a funny kind of a thing, but like if you're really a patient, you should listen to the benefits of what your ailments are, right? So if you have a headache, you know, the one thing that we hate the worst as educators in the cannabis scene, right, is to talk to somebody that says it didn't work for me, right? Or that they bought something off Amazon and they tried it, they paid a lot of money for it and it didn't work, and now they kind of like, you know, it's like that, you know, you get one try to make a first impression kind of a thing, right? A lot of people are very stigmatic about it, and when they buy it, they don't know where to buy it. So again, they go to Amazon, and like as we see in research, their top 10 sales of CBD products have 0 CBD in it. So this is where we talk about legalization, which is a great topic, and regulations, right? Because we need an industry that's regulated so these things do not happen to people, right? Because, we can have the best cookbooks, we have the best products in the world, but these people are experiencing crap products that don't help them. They're not going to keep trying, right? They're going to go back to whatever it was that was making them happy before, whether it's alcohol, an opioid, another drug, you know what I mean? Right. And now we're talking about legalization of other drugs, such as like mushrooms, for instance. Right now, again, we're seeing science on mushrooms with microdosing and utilizing food have a ton of benefits, right? And then there's another stigmatic kind of a thing because everybody thinks they're going to trip their balls off, right? And then one of the other questions, and I guess I'm going to ask you this real quick. What do people do, and we talk about a lot, to curb the side effect if they do eat too much cannabis? What do you suggest to people that are listening?
Me?
Yeah.
I suggest eating fat foods because of your metabolism in your liver. And I suggest if you did happen to have a good full spectrum extract, or you had some kind of a sublingual tincture of that had cannabinoids in it, that was more full spectrum, and some of the other cannabinoids that we've discussed earlier, I would take that. I would take that. And I think that, I mean, I personally have been paying a lot of attention to strains that work for me and don't work for me. And it's like, okay, well, like after the Paris bombings, keep a journal. After the Paris bombings, I was going to Paris. Like the next 10 days later than that, in 2015, I was going, and my partner was like speaking at the United Nations about fracking, and we were going to Paris. And I was like, holy shit, I didn't know what to do. And I wasn't sure. And I smoked some Blue Dream and lost my shit, and I was like, and then I figured out it takes like 2 hours. 2 like long hours, for that shit to just go through my system and wear off. And, now I think journaling is really important. I think like my old partner used to make fun of me. He's like, you're like smoking it like a cigarette, because I did used to smoke cigarettes. And he's like, just like take a little puff, like just check it out, vibes it out. Like we need to be careful with cannabis, and especially like the stuff that people are selling and eating it where you could really lose your shit. Like, I just think I super respect it. And I think it's like the goddess mother. Ganja is the goddess mother. And so like, we need to have reverence and like show up in a way that honors the plant and respects like the medicine of it. And so that's really, I think that's part of my foundation around it anyways.
That's awesome. I mean, again, I think there's a lot of stigmas around it, smoking it, utilizing it, consuming it. I think there's a bigger fear of in our foods. You know what I mean? Like, there's an edible market out there. I think a lot of people were miseducated at the beginning of utilizing it. So like you said, we've heard a lot of horror stories of people like over medicating because, again, like Rodney said, there's a time frame that your body takes to absorb it and metabolize it into something that you're going to feel, right? So people will eat a brownie and wait a half hour and go, man, I don't really feel it. Maybe I should eat more. Or what am I missing? And they eat more, and all of a sudden the train just takes you off the tracks and you're sitting on the couch wondering, what the fuck did I do to myself, right? Yeah, unfortunately, edibles.
Microdosing. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to add to that around microdosing psilocybin. I've seen that a lot too, where it's like friend comes to the party and you're like, have a little microdose, and then it's a little while later and you're like, and then another friend comes and you're gonna microdose with them too, and then you're like taking a bath at your friend's party. You know what I mean? Be careful and wait it out, man. If in doubt, wait it out.
No, I totally hear that, and I think a lot with it again is just people don't understand. You know what I mean? It's kind of like taking acid or, like you said, mushrooms or whatever. Like, you don't want to just keep popping things until you feel something. It doesn't work that way, right? And I think that's the biggest fear for people, because they don't know what they're getting 90% of the time. They don't know how much they're consuming. They don't know what their limit is. They don't know how it's going to affect them. And when we talk about edibles or dinners or things like that, we've seen situations where some chefs have pushed the limit. You know what I mean? Like,
so I don't do any of that. I don't infuse food for people.
Oh, we lost sound again for a second. I think you said you don't infuse your food, right? So with a lot of things that we've seen, especially with legalities in some of the states, we've seen a lot of chefs approach that with they'll make a dinner, then they'll infuse side items that you can have your choice, and they'll let you know how much is in there. So the biggest thing is not to give somebody like Thomas 200 milligrams every different meal and have a 5-course meal there. So at the end of the meal, they're really consuming 1,000 milligrams. These people are on their face, right? By the time dessert comes, they're just staring at it, So those are the things
I'm going back for seconds.
Yeah, right. Well, that's the thing. Some of us can, but a lot of us can't. You know what I mean? And again, we don't want to take people that are not hard consumers of cannabis away from the industry because they got over medicated. They got they had a bad experience. They had experience that didn't happen to them with a bad product, right? And this is a game where we talk about regulations and stuff like that. It's easy to buy a cart and know that you're gonna have 1,000 milligrams and each hit and blah 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 blah. It's easy to pick up a joint and be able to put it down because its effect happens almost instantly, right? So with food, there's a process to it. But we don't want to discourage anybody from trying because it's so beneficial to you that, if you guys have had a bad experience with it, if you guys have tried a product that didn't really work for you, talk to somebody, figure out, get a little more education on it and give it another try. Because I mean, like you said, as a diet, it's phenomenal. We don't talk about it enough. The whole, it seems like all the world wants to talk about is CBD, and which turns into a tincture and an oil. And that's our bubble. But, I think we're missing a lot of what this plant offers, especially from, a nutrition standpoint, from an industrial standpoint, from all these different processes, feeds. We could go on and on and on and on about it, right?
Well, especially if you're using it in a medicinal sense, and you're giving it a try for the first time, definitely give it a try more ways than one. Give it a few different strains a try, because when it comes down to it, the first one is almost never the best one for you. I mean, I went through probably 30, 40 different strains before I ended up developing my own that worked best for my own conditions based on what I needed. So when it comes down to it, it's not a one-size-fits-all option. Just because 5 1-to-1 pills works great for me doesn't mean it works great for everyone. Some people are going to do better with a heck of a lot less than that, and some people will be better with like a 5 to 1 or a 10 to 1. It all depends on what you're really trying to treat and the individual person themselves.
Yeah,
totally.
What's really exciting is that for the very first time, we're starting to be able to see the research and understand how specific cannabinoid profiles interact with specific people. And not only with your own personal body chemistry, but the particular ailment that you're looking for. This is what, Israeli scientists have been researching this for like the last 10 years. They've identified now over 160 individual cannabinoids. How those cannabinoids interact, and now add terpenes, which also have an effect. I mean, lavender. When you start looking at the combination of all of the limitless different configurations you can have. The cannabinoid and terpene profiles are going to be varying so much. And as we understand the new receptor, we just found another receptor, as we understand these CB receptors and how the cannabinoids interact with them and our own endocannabinoid system, this is, to me, is the most exciting frontier we're going to be seeing in cannabis. Legalization is great, selling pre-rolls is great, getting stoned is great, but fully being able to research and understand how and the why, and now start to be able to craft specific genetic strains with specific terpene and cannabinoid profiles for specific ailments. Once we fully understand that this treats this, treats this, your particular body chemistry, okay, this is what's going to be most effective for these, that we're about to make this huge leap in understanding over the next 5 years now that we can start to legally research. To me, that is the single most exciting part of the industry.
It's going to be a monumental, moment for medicine as well. A lot of these things that we're treating medically, you're now going to be able to do with just
where it was meant to do.
Yep.
We have an endocannabinoid system for a reason. It's not just there.
We don't have a Zoloft in ibuprofen system. I'm just saying.
Yeah, right. But the problem, but you guys just said the one word. You guys just said the one biggest word that we have to talk about the most: the endocannabinoid system, right? Like we, even our doctors didn't even recognize this until the last, 5-10 years now, right? So now we're looking at it as an actual potential medical benefit to it. 15 years ago, it was a stoner drug, guys. Let's be honest. You know what I mean? We didn't have any legalizations yet. Nobody really was looking at for medical benefit, right? And then when we did, we started to see, seizures. And Rick Simpson came out with, his oil, and everybody's like, "What's going on?" And it's starting to work, and people are getting cured from cancer. And we even see it from a political level, right? How many people do we know that used to hate cannabis who were the biggest prohibitionists, even on a federal or a political level, right? Who are now supporters or heads of a company or, you know, and why? Like, because they saw it work, right? They had a family member, they had something in their life.
A really big check.
So
I was going to say,
right?
yeah, there was a lot of zeros that influenced that change.
One of the best things that we can say right now, is this. Come on a little close. Hey, remember when we was telling you that chefs is doctors? Guess what, bitches? We doctors.
Right. Hey, the chef industry is one of the craziest industries. That's being a chef.
It's going to revolutionize the food industry now, because now we can be like, yo, check it out. My arm hurts, or like I'm having cardiovascular problems. Oh, check it out. Blue Dream is great for that shit. Here's some brownies. Or like, take this tincture, put it in your food. Or better yet, you know what? You let me know, and I could package you together some instructions or something, send you a recipe to cook, and cook it with you that way. That's telehealth, isn't it?
I mean, we're even seeing benefits now to treat COVID, right? Like, there's a lot of research out there now that's saying this could be a big game changer for COVID, right? You know, people don't think that, you know, especially breathing issues and stuff like that. They're like, you can smoke weed, it helps you breathe. What? Like,
I have asthma and I smoke all goddamn day.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. You know, we see Phelps, we see all these crazy athletes that really endorse cannabis, and this whole time they've told people loud and clear that they smoke weed, they smoke joints. He jumps in the pool and dominates, right? We see people that do great things that smoke weed. So, like, you know, we're writing cookbooks, right? We can run companies, we can, you know, win awards and gold medals and stuff like that. So it's not a drug that, you know, is going to make you do the things that a lot of the stigmas
and a lot of people
preach,
who are bashing, you know, weed right now and cannabis. Yo, check it out. Hey guys, listen up.
Mom's got the rig going.
You're a white person and you're talking about, yo, let's banish weed. It's terrible. It's terrible. Yo, we got a weed to help you with your little standing at attention problem too. You're having some problems. There's a weed for that. You understand? We can solve your issues.
I think the biggest place, I think the most exciting place for me, I think, is like psychiatric areas.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Especially with like cops and like, a lot of these people that are fighting the play now. Like, you know, how beneficial could this be for these stressed out police officers that are in the news every day, who have to make a split-second decision on how to react to any situation, whether it's good or bad? Like, you know, we've seen a lot of bullshit happen with cops. We've seen a lot of great things happen with cops. I'm not a cop hater by any means, but, you know, in this day and age, we have issues, right? We have stress issues. You know, these guys could use help. You know, we have people in the military, and these guys, and people don't realize this, but these are one of the number one people that take their own lives, right? Suicide rates are ridiculous, right? These guys see things, they do things that they have to live with every day. That's not easy, right? We kind of shit on them a lot, but, like, you know, they see things every day that we see on a camera on you know, the internet, and we make a decision on what they did, right? And you know, with our riots, with all these things, like, you know, it's kind of funny because we all, you know, joke about it, like, why can't we just smoke a joint and talk about this, right? Why are we burning down our cities, our towns? You know what I mean? And how beneficial can this be? The opioid crisis, right? Let's talk about that for a minute. We see huge strides in helping the opioid crisis. I'd rather have these opioid people smoking joints and robbing me, you know what I mean, or their families, or you know, just creating a nightmare. And we've seen whole cities get ravished by drugs, you know what I mean? Good people that we know, there's no rhyme or reason to it, you know what I mean? You know, good homes, bad homes, right? You know, people go there, but like, as a beneficial, it's not an entry drug. Everybody talks about this being an entry drug to other things. It's an exit drug. You know, Dr. Uma, shout out to Dr. Uma, we love you. It's an exit drug. Right? We've had her on the show a few times. We fully love and endorse her, but she makes a great point. You know, it's an exit drug. You know, we see statistically that it's really helping out. Every state that's legalized right now, Tim can attest to it. You know, we see lower usage of alcohol. We see opioid rates dropping. You know, we're not seeing like these stigmatic
rates, alcohol rates, teen usage rates.
Amazing.
Fact. There's no real arguing about it. I mean, that's absolutely true.
Right. We're not seeing crime rates go up. We're not seeing deaths go up. We're not seeing, you know, overdoses go up, right? Because it's not killing you, right? I can send you for a fun ride, but it's not going to kill you, you know?
And I wanted to follow up on your point real quick. Is it okay just to add to it about, I just feel like, to follow up with what you were saying, if we could, you know, if we were dropping weed bombs, like cannabis, ganja really has the ability to like bring you into this like non-violent space. you know, I mean, we were talking about police officers and all humans. I mean, it really takes everything like down so much where that's you know, like, that's why Reefer Madness was so fucking hilarious, because it's like the biggest propaganda of all time. But they're like Johnny smoked marijuana today. And then Johnny killed his mom with a frying pan. And it's like, that is not true. If Johnny smoked a joint, Johnny would be chilling the fuck out and hugging mama.
Yeah, right. No? Telling jokes and mom
Johnny
laughing.
would have taken the frying pan and made eggs, and mom would have been stoned.
He's making munchies, you know. It's like, it's so good to get in that space. And I think that, you know, lots of people who are aggro and violent and doing all kinds of crazy shit, like those guys need to smoke a joint and chill the fuck out.
Okay, a cop pulls you over, you get taken in downtown for whatever reason. Let's say you're drunk. Have them smoke a joint. They'll calm the fuck, they'll sober up a little faster. They're being, you know, aggravated. Smoke a joint. You want a truth confession? Don't give them a cigarette like that. Give them a fucking joint. 10 minutes. They'll tell you whatever the fuck you want. You see what I'm saying? It's just like this. It might not a story, but you'll get it.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. You know, campus has brought a lot of people together. You know, you know, the saddest thing about the world, and I'm going to attest to this, is there's so many people that use it that will not admit it. You know what I mean? Growing up, I knew so many people, teachers, lawyers, doctors, police officers that were cannabis users that would buy off of us when we were selling weed as kids. Like, we knew this,
I don't like that. That sucks. I used to want to, that made me want to like punch people where I grew up. They're like, can I get some, my girlfriend's like, can you give me some bud? And I was like, do you want to buy an eighth? And she's like, oh no, I don't buy it. And I remember the first time I heard that, I was like, fuck you. Like, I was 19 and I was like, ew, really? And that's when I started noticing, like, that was like right before I went to dead shows, and people just like treating me different for like a ring in my nose, my clothing, my hair, like just being a hippie, you know, and missing the whole point. And then now they want to invest in it. And I think that sucks.
Yeah.
Fuck them. I don't want any of their dirty money.
It's crazy. The biggest thing I love is when you go to an event, right? And like, now you go to an event and the officer that's working the event, that's in support of the event, that's getting paid by the event, was the officer that probably arrested 20 of those people and had them spend jail time that are working the event. And the guys just walking around and utilizing it again, because I mean, as much as we hate to say that, it's a positive move, right? Like, you know, I want to say that people can change their minds in life, right? Like, we all have the right to change our mind. We all have a right to our opinion, but like, let's make an educated opinion. Like, you know, there's a lot of people that I know that, you know, how many people do we know literally that have changed their outlook on cannabis, right?
More than one.
We laughed about the politicians and stuff for green, but like, there's a lot of people that literally, one of the biggest things that we saw here in the East Coast is when we had like mask illegal. You know, all the events weren't the stoner guys anymore. It was our parents. It was the people that were really interested in learning about this plant that they've been literally propagated stigma for how many years now, right? Going on almost 100 years. So, you know, we're pretty close to that. So like in their generation, it's been illegal. It's been, you know, this is your mind on drugs. It's been the Ronald Reagan. It's been, you know, the Ollie North years. And then not to help our stance anything, we had the cocaine and we had all these other things coming in that, you know, were, you know, slightly government funded in my opinion. But you know, this war on the drug, you know, we've talked about how it started, right? We talked about the Mexican revolutions. We talked about a lot of different things. We've had John Dvorak on, who gave us a really interesting background on how, one of the other reasons why it didn't succeed well in this country was because it just wasn't a crop that was doing very well. You know what I mean? We saw lower numbers, and then, you know, the hemp thrashing machines came in, and then obviously Hearst. It was a combination of a bunch of different things, right? We were all really well educated on the history of hemp with John Dvorak. If you guys can ever take 5 minutes, go research it, because you're going to learn a lot. And a lot of our what we know is going to change your mind. So, you know, I want people to get educated, right? I want officers to be educated. I want doctors to be educated. I want doctors to be able to open their mind enough to say that cannabis is something that's beneficial to somebody on this planet, right? Because until we have those people that are willing to do that, we're gonna have this stigma. We're gonna have this prohibition in certain ways. You know, we see cities in states that are completely legal that will not, you know, they're not gonna legalize it, right?
So what you're telling me is we should basically rewrite DARE. No, what did I tell you? No, guys.
Yeah,
time
no.
out.
Being honest.
Let's go back a couple.
Right.
Of
Let's be
episodes.
honest. Thank you, Tim. Let's be honest. Let's just teach our kids. Let's not
Rewrite
go
anything.
away.
How about we just
Hang
say,
on.
these are things, they make you feel good. They're not really that great for you. And when you're 21, you can decide whether you want to do them or not.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't see where the difficulty here is. It's this pure concept of if you enjoy it, it must be bad. That's like so ingrained into this, you know, Christian nation of ours. It's true. Unfortunately, there's this concept of if you enjoy it, if it's pleasurable, it must be evil. That's the root of all this. It's the root of all prohibition, other than social control.
But let's look at alcohol for a minute, though. Alcohol had a long-term prohibition, right? And look where it is now. It's almost as prevalent as anything we can find on any corner of any town or city as a bar, right?
And the blood of Christ was wine. I don't trust him. He was an alcoholic. Let's pick another deity. You see what I'm saying?
Well, that's what I'm saying here. You know what I mean? Like we got this discussion a lot, but you know what I mean? We need people to change their ideas. We need people to change their outlooks on cannabis, right?
Shadi, you're trying to say something?
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on what Tim was saying about, but to his point about, I mean, it's just so crazy that the brainwashing that big pharma is an acceptable drug, that those drugs are acceptable, man. That's the crazy shit that's going to stop your heart. That's the shit that's going to make you fucking dehydrated. That's the shit that will fucking kill you, man.
Absolutely.
That will fucking kill you. And they're so brainwashed.
But that's the shit that's making these corporations and the politicians billions of dollars. That's the problem.
Hang on, y'all. You guys are very, very passionate about this. I'm going to tell you the answer is extremely simple. We do it the way they did it. For example, they wanted to smear campaigns and all that shit. Hello, Reagan and the war against drugs and the DARE to begin with. So hang on. What if we take DARE and flip it on its ass, and instead of telling them, yo, drugs are bad, educate kids, yo, this is what cocaine does. This is what weed does. That's what we need to do. You want to educate people? Fucking start there.
But true education, like some of this education can go way one side and then the other. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
but that's my point. You got to start them young, because check it out. If we educate them then, look at what we know now.
Yeah, the stigma's gone.
Exactly.
I have an 8-year-old and he knows more about weed than most people I know. And he probably never will want to try it. He understands it. He sees the medicinal value in it, and it's a commonplace.
He's going to be that police officer that gives that, yo, homie, smoke this, calm down, and let's go over your story one more time. That's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, right. Instead of a Narcan shot, they all should have a blunt in their pocket, right?
I don't know about blunt. You got that little tobacco in there, you know. Give them an option. Be like, hey, let's pop that trunk. You know, let's pick you something to smoke out of. Fuck
it. A dab, you know what I mean? But, I mean, we laugh about it, but I mean, these are serious issues that we still face every day in our industry, right? Especially with the police. And like we said, you know, it's very hypocritical because a lot of these guys do it themselves. They, you know, they do bust, and half the stuff shows up in the impound, right?
I thought you said it was a pound. No, I said half pound. I forgot to put the /2.
So, but I mean, unfortunately, it was a war funded by our government, propagated by our government, pushed by our government, and like, you know, we could have this discussion all day. But again, it's the grassroots movement that finally pushed us, like, you know, Shadi said, you know what I mean? Constantly cooking and educating people and showing people that, hey, we're still alive, we're not dead, it didn't kill our kids, like, look, you know, we're healthy, look at us, like, we're not these fat, you know, couch mongers that people think of us as.
We're not potatoes.
Fat couch monger. Fuck that. I don't ever want to be a fat couch monger.
Right? You know,
SCM, yo. Fuck that.
Well, I mean, let's talk about stigmas. You know, everybody thinks when we get stoned, we're hungry, we're going to eat our faces and sit on the couch and drool on ourselves. Like,
it's like that. It's like that drug commercial where she's melted on the couch. It's like, Sally is high. The dog's barking at her. Yeah, no.
Yeah, most people I know that go smoke weed, right? Depending on the strain, obviously, but they go smoke weed before they're going to go do something. I came out of the music industry. Every artist I've ever dealt with smoked weed before they stepped on stage.
Ain't never seen nobody deflate before. That's all I'm going to say. That don't happen.
Right, but we see the music. We see the music industries. We see speakers. We see people that do, you know, stand in front of thousands of people. Dude, I was a DJ for years. I've stood in front of crowds every time before I had to get on stage. I smoked my face off. Right, it really helped me anxiety-wise. Right, it helped slow my brain down. It helped me focus. Those are benefits to people.
That's what it does.
Yeah. Right. So my favorite thing about it is because I do product development, like recipe formulations. I make products, right? I make product lines, and that's like, I think my favorite way to interact with cannabis is to just like bring in that download, to connect with like a source, which is my source, and download all this amazing information that's like turns into like a mushroom chocolate or like my brand or a new recipe. Like that's like my favorite way to use cannabis, really.
I asked this next question and with the utmost respect, but I gotta know, how much DMT do you do?
I'm scared of it. I've never done it.
Because you want to talk about connecting to a source?
That's the source.
I don't think I could do it. I'm scared of things now.
Yo, so you got, okay, let's put it this way. Let's talk about psychedelics real quick. We'll talk about Delta 9. All right, well, what's better than Delta 9 and being high from Delta 9? Shrooms. We know that. We understand that. Well, what's better than shrooms? Acid. We know that.
Those are all different things. Those are all different experiences, right?
They're all psychedelics, and let's face it, they're sweeping the nation now. So we got to talk about them. We can talk about education and stuff like that.
Let's embrace it. Let's face it and embrace it.
Yeah. So what's past LSD? DMT.
Ooh, Lord.
Not
Well, we know Joe Rogan's a huge fan, so
absolutely.
and he talks about it. He does it a lot during his shows. It's an experience, you know what I mean? Is it an experience for everybody? Maybe not, because it is an opening and mind-opening experience that not a lot of people, it's like acid, you know what I mean? A lot of people shouldn't do acid. It really exposes your inner mind to yourself in ways that, depending on your mood, your mindset.
It makes your mind strong, or it doesn't.
Right.
You lose your shit.
It all depends on what you're doing. Okay, that's if you're going to do that, it depends on where you're at. Okay.
Well, that's it. Mental spaces, stuff like
Yes.
that. So
I say that in more ways than one. Where you're at mentally in life, both.
You're right. I agree. I was gonna say though, one of my homies was telling me the story about DMT and like all this stuff, and she's like giving birth to herself, and it's like, I'm like, and then she's like, it was 7 minutes, and I'm like, what? Holy shit!
Yeah.
That's a scary thing to approach. You know what I mean? Cannabis is a little easier than that. You know what I mean?
For the record, I'm not trying to incriminate myself at all.
Please don't.
It is an experience that people should try. I mean, obviously, like you said, Rodney, it's something that we don't talk about much on the show because we're cannabis focused. But psychedelics are coming across the country. They're sweeping the nation, right? Oregon. Like we were going to talk with Tim here in a minute, just decriminalize all drugs, right? So even right up to heroin, right? But then again, we have research that shows that this has been effective in certain areas of the world.
Hey Tim, do you think they did that as like a form of, like low-key population control?
What, legalize that?
Legalize all drugs.
It was a ballot initiative. Go ahead. I think it was a giant fuck you to the federal government. I don't think Portland, Oregon, which
I'm good with that.
Where it came from, is real happy with the status quo. It was a ballot initiative, so it was people. It wasn't legislatively enacted. And it was, Oregon is, very similar to Vermont. There's Portland, and then there's the rest of Oregon. And this is generally, really spared. It's fantastic. It's another step forward, but I'm not quite sure what you mean by population control.
So you look at it this way, like, okay, all drugs are now decriminalized, right? We're talking from weed all the way up to heroin, okay?
And remember, small amounts.
Correct.
Very small amounts for personal use. Once you start exceeding a certain possession limit, you're back into
distribution,
right?
Yeah.
So that answers all the questions. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not like you can just go out with bundles of cocaine now through the street,
So I gotta not do that.
Small personal possession of quantities. So if you're caught with a ticket, if you're caught with a half gram of blow, if you're caught with a hit, meth is really big. Because when you can't
not even one
Adderall prescription, you end up doing it and risking 25 years in prison.
You don't end up doing meth, it's just
But it also should be noticed. It's not like it's just legal either. You're not going to be sitting there smoking meth on a park bench. If you get, if they find it, they can still confiscate it. You're still subject to a fine. you happen to be on probation or any type of supervised release, that's definitely still going to be a violation. They can still use it as an excuse to circumvent your Fourth Amendment rights and search and seizure. So I'm not trying to take away that it's a great thing, but I just want to put a little perspective. It's not like, Christiana, where it's just going to be like running around doing drugs left and right now. It's just that they can no longer lock up, which is generally brown or black young men, for very small quantities of drugs now.
That's amazing.
All right, I'm going to ask a serious
And
question.
that's huge. I can't.
That is huge.
I want to de-emphasize the importance of that. We'll see what happens. Now, if Trump happens to win and Bill Barr stays head of the Department of Justice, at any time the feds can come in there like gangbusters. Because just because Oregon says it's okay, that don't change things on the federal level, just like cannabis. So you are still subject to federal prosecution.
This huge fuck you that Oregon's throwing to the United States right now, it's a great thing. It's a good thing. I'm awesome. I'm good with it. But do you think that it's one step in helping try and like fix the bullshit that is the judicial system in America?
Yeah, it's an excellent step toward it. I mean, it's an amazing step.
A huge burden.
The judicial system needs to be rebuilt from the floor ground up, particularly our drug laws. Our drug laws are absolutely insane.
Everything gets funneled and you get nowhere.
Yeah, and but what's happened is our judicial system and our criminal justice system has been used. Now, when you want to talk about population control, that's where I say that's what our criminal justice system is. There's nothing but a form of population control.
Yeah.
When I was 26 in 2004, I was caught, as everybody here knows or should know, with 62 grams of cocaine. If I'd been black or brown, 10-year felony, easy. Federal indictment, easy. Because I was white and male, and I knew what to say. I ended up getting pled down to misdemeanors, eventually expunged, and now became a lawyer. There's a lot of people that would not happen for. If anybody ever questions white privilege, there's the perfect example. But this is what our justice system is. If you know what to say, and I was poor, I had that strike against me, but I'm good in the courtroom, and it was, I was able, just because I'm white, because I'm male, because I was able to talk, I managed to get myself out of it. There should be equality. It shouldn't matter what color your skin is. It shouldn't matter how much money you have in the bank account. It shouldn't matter if you're male or female. It shouldn't matter anything. Justice is supposed to be equal. And what we have in our system at both the state and federal level is not an equal or an even system. And drug policy has exacerbated that to an absolutely ridiculous.
Let's stop calling the system, the judicial system, you innocent until proven guilty, because we all know you're guilty until proven innocent. Absolutely. It doesn't matter what you do. Let's actually let's do what we say. You're innocent until fucking proven guilty.
Well, there are some little nuances of defense attorney that work in your favor with that presumption of innocence. Like when it actually gets down to the nitty gritty, when we do our thing, that actually we pretty much are really lucky to have that, because there are, like in the UK, for example, it is. You have to prove your innocence. And that's a lot more challenging. It's a lot easier to get a jury to agree that the state hasn't proven their case than you trying to prove yours. But, you're absolutely right, Jeff. I mean, it's fundamental. And drug policy reform, getting away from this locking everybody up because adults choose to do something to alter their perception for a brief period of time. Is insane. And when you realize that almost all of the detrimental effects that you see from drugs that people say they have to keep it illegal for are actually a direct result of it being illegal. Drugs are cheap to make. They were distributed in a facility where you had drug counseling and you had nurses on hand, and you had pure drugs that were not adulterated, that were not cut down, that were not, where you had clean rigs and needles and, methods of use. And it was done in a controlled setting, not, with people staring at you. But with those resources available, there's no crime, there's no theft because drugs are cheap. You're getting counseling right there when you're getting your drugs. A lot of the negative effects, the whole economy of the black market goes away when you don't have a controlled substance, when it's no longer illegal. Prohibition. We've seen this.
And then on the other side
in our life,
you have to
lifetime. But we don't get it. We don't learn. Right. We make the same damn mistakes over and over. Because it's easy to arrest brown and black people for smoking pot, having a little bit of blood. That's what we like in jail. And that's the underpinnings of our entire fucking drug policy.
Evildoers.
Yeah, and then on the other end of that, you've got the Last Prisoner Project or whatever it was. What was it?
Last Prisoner Project.
Exactly. So, and that's my point. Listen. Yo, cannabis became essential in 2020, which is why the entire nation went green, okay? How the fuck you going to be locked up for something that was deemed fucking essential?
You're locked up for something that some white businessman is now making hundreds of thousands of
Exactly.
it's unconscionable. That's why, expungement statutes are so,
yeah.
and we're getting that at the state level, still not seeing it at the federal level. The MORE Act, which probably is now dead for the next 2 years, had a very robust federal expungement statute, which would be the first of its kind. Feds don't expunge anything. You do not want to be in federal court ever under any circumstance.
It's like you're not going
to win. And when judges hand out sentences like 98 months, like they're throwing M&Ms around, and you think 98 months. Well, I guess that doesn't seem that bad. Pretty bad. You don't want to be in federal court. So we need to expunge them. We need to get people out. Nobody should have ever spent 1 minute in prison for a plant ever.
Yep.
I mean, it's insane. It's insane. You think about the lives lost. You think about the. Don't get me started.
Yo, you want to smoke a joint? Calm down. I'll smoke a joint. Calm down. I'm just kidding. No, but seriously, I agree with you, dude. 100%. We've had conversations about this. Like, dude, we got this, y'all. We got this. We just have to keep fighting.
Yeah, okay. But let's talk about this now. It's in a little bit more. Huge congratulations to Arizona, right?
Yeah.
We have a whole bunch of states that have passed initiatives, right?
South Dakota, man. South Dakota is like,
right.
We went from having some of those strictest marijuana laws on the books, like right up there in the top 3, potential felony charges for as little as like a gram joint, to simultaneously legalizing medical and adult use. Okay, let's go. It's like Vegas in Bismarck. I mean, it's just crazy. So, New Jersey, that's hello East Coast. The minute I heard that, the next thing I heard were the pens up in Albany with the legislators going up there going, all right, we're legalizing now. That is going to spur, you're going to see within the next year now, Pennsylvania, New York, Connecticut. Everyone's waiting for the shoe to drop, the first one to go. And what's so cool about Jersey is that they actually have done this the right way. They've been ramping up over the last 3 years in anticipation of adult use. They didn't just sit back on, I don't know, let's say 10 dispensaries that can't even sell flour. I'm looking at you, New York. They've been ramping up production capability. They've been ramping up cultivation. They've been ramping up medical dispensary sites. They've been preparing for the adult use industry. They're not all the way there yet, still have, a significant way to go. But Governor Phil Murphy has, by instituting more liberal qualifying conditions and making it easier for doctors to register in New Jersey, they've got more doctors involved in the program. That transition is going to be a lot easier, a lot smoother, and a lot quicker than, say, New York, which 10 dispensaries can't sell flour. Very few, cultivation capability. And they'll ramp up quick. And they have the money to do it. But it's been much like Vermont. We haven't done anything. We've sat on our 5 useless dispensaries. Now we go adult use. There's a lot of work to be done. I
have a question, actually.
What's up?
So, with COVID, we're using COVID physically, medicinally to try and combat COVID, or we're using, cannabis to combat COVID medicinally. Okay.
The only thing I would say about that is we don't really fully understand cannabis. Right. We definitely don't understand COVID. So, right. I think, there's been some indication that cannabinoids perhaps are having an effect on certain parts. I just shy away from like stating things as fact. Yeah,
it's not a fact.
But yes, the point is some promising signs, and I think that's exciting.
May I bring up a fact? A fact is that the endocannabinoid system is in charge of basically creating homeostasis in our body.
Yes, balance.
And so we're not doctors. We're not making any kind of giving medical advice. We're not giving any treatment. What I'm saying to this conversation, which I think adds value, is that we do have an endocannabinoid system. It is responsible for maintaining homeostasis of so many other systems of our body. And so when we're talking about COVID coexistence, we need to be responsible for our own immune systems and feeding our own endocannabinoid system, maintaining the homeostasis, taking other herbs, consuming cannabis in different ways. That's all great shit that no one's talking about.
Nope, I agree full-heartedly.
All that stuff. We need to be doing that for ourselves and pumping ourselves up. So I just wanted to add that.
Absolutely. I'm gonna pretend I said that. I'm gonna my question with that.
I mean, she makes a great point. I mean, this is what we all like. At the end of the day, this is what we all are striving for, right? But there's states that they can't right now. You know what I mean? There's states that they legally they're not allowed to do this. I mean, there's some states that you can't even grow your own. You know what I mean?
Right.
And this is the fights that we're trying to fight. One thing, Tim, we just had a comment from a listener about Pennsylvania. I heard you bring up Pennsylvania will be the next in line to fall. They didn't pass, right? So they're one of the states that didn't pass their any sort of legalization there. How do you feel about
the Pennsylvania didn't have it on the ballot this time around? They're working on it legislatively. It's been slowed, somewhat slowed. So there wasn't a ballot initiative in Pennsylvania being voted on, but there's been a lot of the governor is very supportive. I believe their head of their state senate, I think if I remember correctly, is very supportive. So there is a lot of support and momentum. A lot of people feel that, again, just speculation and kind of a slur shoot shit, but that New York and Pennsylvania and Jersey were all going to go, just waiting to see. It always looked like Jersey with its ballot initiative was going to make it. It's not a straight ballot initiative; it's a referendum. But that if they had failed, I would be saying that both New York and Pennsylvania would cool off considerably. The powers that are the prohibitionist powers, the ones
I'm not a professional. I don't.
Jersey passing though.
Politics.
Yeah, I mean, it's all unfortunately, it's all politics. Especially, but neither Pennsylvania or New York will allow the amount of tax revenue that is about to start flowing from their respective states into New Jersey.
Is why
that is unacceptable for everybody straight across the board. I don't care if it's port pot or not. We're not spending $400 million a freaking week over to freaking New Jersey. No, not happening.
And that's what I was, that was the second part of my question. Do you think that these states are becoming medicinally, they're looking at how much the legal states are pulling in revenue and how much more they're making for the economy? You think that they're going green just to get more green?
I think that's the motivation for some people.
It's money, man.
I think that's the motivation that legislatures really think about when they're saying, we don't care about the money, we're caring about criminal justice. And, but not all. Some people really do care about the social justice aspect of this. They realize how horrific this is.
And I'll give it that.
To a section
There's
of
a
our
lot
community.
of states out there where it's just like, but like you said, we don't want to send them to Jersey. You know what I'm saying? Like, we want to keep them here.
Well, that's what's gonna get the legislature at Albany moving.
Right.
They've been discussing it. They've been fighting it. There's just contingents that are very, very, very anti, that are very vocal and very loud about it, even within their own Democratic Party. This is not strictly a red and blue issue anymore, as we've seen from all of the initiatives which passed, all of them wildly. It wasn't even close in any of them. It was all blowouts. Mississippi, they were. I give them credit. They got rid of the bullshit, one that the legislature put in, which was Article 25A, which was this really, really ridiculous limited medical program that would limit cannabis to only terminally ill patients. And the way they put it on the ballot, it was really confusing as to which one you were voting for. You had to vote for one, but then you had to vote for two, and they purposely made it as confusing as possible. And yet people saw right through it. And they approved their Proposition A, or 65 rather, which was the original ballot initiative, which is a very encompassing, very broad, very really well thought out medical program. Look at Mississippi. Yeah, that's incredible. So like South Dakota, now Jersey, now Arizona. At the state level, we're seeing amazing, amazing, amazing progress. I'm really upset about the Senate because I was really hoping, had we just gotten a few more seats there, we could be seeing real momentum on the MORE Act. We could be definitely seeing the SAFE Act. That would have been the catalyst for some serious federal movement. And now I think the luckiest we're going to get is the SAFE. That might get through. That's about it.
Well,
I'm actually I'm interested. Tim had mentioned New York. I'm actually really interested to see what comes out of there in the next year because, like you said, they've only have 10 dispensaries. You can't sell flower. The only company I think that can sell any form of flower is Pure Leaf, and it's like a vape pod. Like they go through some sort of Keurig vape system, and it's horrible.
Really funny story about that.
Yeah, And
they first came out
when
with it, and the regulators were like, all right, if it's ground up really fine, you can do it. And they had it ground up in their vape, and the regulators took a look and they're like, no, it's not ground up enough. You need to ground it up more. It cannot possibly be smoked.
Well, I'll tell you what, I can still smoke a keef joint, man. But
Don't put
yeah,
keef in your magical butter machine. Don't do it.
No beef in the butter
But,
I learned the hard way.
but looking at, just like with just the 10 dispensaries, and having been into one myself, and spoken to one of the pharmacists at the dispensary, who straight up told me, oh, you need you're a normal consumer of cannabis, oh, you don't need any CBD in your medicine, just THC. And because in his mind, the CBD was only there to help counteract the intoxication and the paranoia otherwise felt by the THC. He had no idea what he was talking about at all. In reality, the state is way behind so many other places.
Oh, yeah. They're very, very far behind. The one advantage New York has is that there's a lot of people willing to dump a lot of money into ramping up quick.
Right.
That's something Vermont, for example, does not have. But they still, no matter how much money you throw at it, it's still going to take time. They still have to get cultivation facilities up. They're still going to have to hire teams. They're still going to have to put together, and you're going to get through all the bureaucracy in New York State. I grew up in New York, and believe me, it's, that's going to, I honestly, I think we're going to see, even though I think they're going to move very quickly on the legalization process, I think we'll be seeing doors open on dispensaries in Vermont before we see doors open up on, adult use dispensaries in New York. I still think it's going to be a little while before they're actually able to get everything smoothed out.
I think they've got a lot to work out. It's going to be a bit of a shit show.
Yeah, and you got two separate states too. Upstate and the city are like night and day. It's like,
upstate New York's a lot more like Vermont. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
But it's more conservative than there.
Way more conservative. And just it's different structures, it's different court systems. Yeah. It's really like a different state. It's run because you can't run New York City and Potsdam, New York in the same.
Not a chance.
So how they're going to implement. Are they going to have separate rules for New York? The city? Are they going to have separate for the how that all is going to work? Because the same rules can't apply. The same rules aren't going to work in Manhattan again and anywhere in upstate. So that's going to take a little time to figure out. So they get their work cut out for them, And in the meantime, Jersey's going to be raking it in, because Jersey expects to be opening doors in 6 months. I think that's a little optimistic, but I would definitely expect to see adult use dispensaries opening up in 2021. Probably, I'm thinking more 9 to 10 months maybe. But they've got, they really have positioned themselves to be able to do so. 2 years in Vermont, probably 3 in New York if they pass it next, in this coming up legislative session. Maybe by 2023 they'll have everything in place and ready to go. Plus, everyone's going to sue everybody for licenses in New York. Anyone who got, as soon as they start issuing, the day they issue the private licenses, there's going to be 18 lawsuits from everybody who didn't get theirs, challenging everything. I'm glad I'm in Vermont.
That's the beauty of where we're at today, and like you said, our whole presidential race still isn't over, so things are still up in the air. We see some states proceed. It's a tight race. It'll be still interesting to see what happens. I haven't paid much attention today because of the show, obviously. So it'll be really interesting, right? I know about our legalization, and one thing I wanted to bring up too, guys, that we didn't discuss yet at all is DC. We talked about mushrooms and all those great things, right? But also, just like Oregon kind of did, DC just decriminalized psychedelics as well. So there's another step there that no one's really talking about at this moment because everybody's focused on Colorado being the initiative. But
I don't think the DC thing was binding because they're technically not a state. I'm not 100% sure. I have to look. I think that, for that to actually become law, like it's law in the state of Oregon now, I think that actually has to go through Congress for DC. DC is a really, really strange system.
Taxation without representation.
Exactly right. No representation, like Puerto Rico. You're American citizens, you're paying taxes, but sorry, we can't find a seat for you.
Fuck now.
A whole other.
That makes it interesting because, nobody talks about.
On that show.
Well, there's a lot. DC does a lot, right? They're very supportive of cannabis. They're legalizing psychedelics, right? But we talk about DC and why can't we get this approved in the federal government, which sits in DC, right? But how is this support? It's like an oxymoron at this point, really. So, but yeah, we had Montana legalize marijuana. South Dakota, like we talked about. Mississippi legalized medical cannabis, which is a huge move. Great for Mississippi, guys. we talked about Oregon, and now we even have Arizona. Like we said, one of the there's some strict laws out there. And they just legalized cannabis across the board. So not only medically, but recreationally, which is huge, right? And then we can't talk about New Jersey enough. We had Leo on the show a few weeks ago, and it was a great conversation because, like Tim said, they really put a plan together. They followed the plan, and they're going to take over a market, right? Unless these other states really jump on the bandwagon and move forward. And they're setting the stage, they're setting the level, they're setting the bar, really, right? We've seen a lot of decriminalizations, we've seen a lot of expungements happening, which is great. We're seeing now towns and certain municipalities doing expungements and getting behind legalization and going support. So it's an interesting time and place that we're in right now. And now that hopefully this political game is over, and in another couple of days we can all put our feet back down on the ground and know which direction we're going, it's going to be great. But we're kind of running
weeks from now until then.
Yeah, right. But before we run out of time, though, I want to get Thomas going here with his Growers Guide segment, and we'll discuss that a little bit. We'll come back. We'll talk a little bit more about the book. We'll talk a little more politics, and then we'll get Chef Rodney on with the strain of the week. Next week, guys, we have another great show for you. We'll discuss that as we come back. But Thomas, let us know what you have for us this week.
So this week is just a quick seed starting mix for starting seeds or clones. Most people are done with their outdoor season now. They've got their plants hanging to dry, or they've already gone ahead and put them in jars secure. So now it is time to go ahead and start your indoor crop. So this is just a super easy seed starting mix that I like to use for both seeds as well as clones. Super simple, easy. Can't say much more about it.
All right. Well, here we go, guys. Here's Thomas with his Growers Guide, Vermont Grow Coaching. Here we go.
Hey, this is Tom with Vermont Grow Coaching, and welcome to Growers Guide, your weekly beginner-friendly cannabis tips and tricks. It's harvest time, or harvest has passed, and you're finally ready to start your indoor plants. So what are you going to be using for your seed starting mix? Today, we're going to be discussing a quick and easy seed starting mix to get you started for both seeds as well as clones for your indoor grow this season. Starting seeds and clones can be extremely easy. They need very little nutrients to get started. In this situation, we're going to be making a seed mix using a cocoa perlite mix of 70% cocoa, 30% perlite, as well as a compost mixture that we've derived. Take a look at this list here. To make 1 gallon of seed starting mix, you're going to need the following for your compost blend. A 1/4 cup of green waste compost. We like to use a combination of vegetable and yard waste, 1 tablespoon of alfalfa meal, 1 tablespoon of insect frass, 1 tablespoon of azomite, 2 tablespoons biochar, a 1/4 cup worm castings, a tablespoon of kelp meal, and 2 tablespoons bokashi. Now there's numerous reasons why we use the mixture that we do in our seed starting mix. We can't really get into that today because that would take a really long time. But please feel free to check out the pros and cons of everything that we added to the seed starting mix today to determine whether or not you wish to add it to yours. We're going to start by taking a tray and adding 1 gallon of our cocoa perlite mix to the tray. Now this cocoa perlite mix is not listed as OMRI certified, but it is RHP certified. In the event that you're unable to find proper organic starting materials, products like RHP certified products and other products that are certified through different organizations other than OMRI are also acceptable. Just make sure that you're paying attention to the additives that are otherwise going into it. You don't want to be using anything that's using pesticides or any sort of additional nutrients or anything along those lines. So we go ahead and we take our compost mixture and boom, just pour it right into the soil and go ahead and mix it right up. So we've got about 1 cup, give or take, of our compost mixture to 1 gallon of the 70/30 cocoa perlite. We go ahead and we stir that up really well. Then we take some water and we go ahead and make it nice and moist. We want this to be field consistency. You need a field consistency in the soil because otherwise the beneficial microbes and bacteria that you've actually added to your starting mix via the compost are not going to properly activate. So once you've added enough water to give yourself a nice field-like consistency, give you an idea of what that looks like here. want to see a couple of drops. That's way too much. Mix that up a little bit more. There's a little bit dry in here. Here we go. Get this good squeeze. See a couple of drops come out there? That's perfect. So we're going to take this mixture, and this mixture actually has to cook for anywhere from 14 to 30 days. You don't have to cook the mixture. You can start seeds or clones in this the way it is, but we like to allow the mixture to set for about 30 days, turning every day or so, just to allow the microbials to start activating and allow the soil to actually become more of a live soil. Now, we're not going to do that with this mixture here today. Okay. So obviously, I'm not going to make you guys wait 2 weeks to a month to see the rest of this process. So here we have a second tray of soil that was actually prepped about 10 days ago. Not quite as long as we'd like, but definitely prepped long enough to have some nice microbial activity. We're going to make sure that the soil, again, is nice and moist in consistency. You want to have a nice field-like consistency, as I mentioned. Now you're going to take the soil. We've got these cow pots here. You don't have to use cow pot brand, but we love these biodegradable pots. These biodegradable pots can actually be transplanted right into the next pot when you go to pot up later on. There's no need to actually remove the soil or the plant from these. They'll actually decompose and provide additional nutrients to your plant in the process. So we go ahead and we take some of the soil, we'll go ahead and just put it in each of the holes here. Now for the seedlings, we're going to want to start our seeds in a relatively light mixture. So you don't want to pack it down. Biodegradable pots, you want to have a lot of room for the soil to be able to burst through the top without too much issue. Now, for the clones, however, you're going to want to pack these a little bit more. It needs to be packed a little bit more because the clone actually needs to have a root structure or a stabilization structure to help keep the plant in place while the roots develop their structure. So we're going to take 2 of these here today, and we're going to give them a good compression. You notice how that went in quite a bit in comparison to the rest. We'll do that to another one here. We're going to add a little bit more to each of these. This is going to be our clone cubes here, where we're going to go ahead and put our clones in. We'll go ahead and do seeds in the rest here. So for the ones where we're going to put seeds, we're going to go ahead and use our finger and just go down about a ½ inch, give or take. Now, you can definitely go down further than this, and a lot of people are going to look at me, ½ inch, that's it. The reason I'm saying ½ inch is I want to see the seed pop. I want to know whether or not it's actually a viable seed, because the seeds that we're putting into the pots here today have not actually been prepped via the paper towel method or water glass method or any other form of pre-prep. They've literally come right out of the jar. I've got a couple of seeds right here on top. We're going to put them right in. So again, I went about a ½ inch down. I'm going to go ahead and take the seeds. Now, some people are a little picky about the orientation of the seeds when you put them in. I'm not too picky about it. I just drop the seed in, put a tiny bit of soil over the top of it, not too much, just enough to allow the plant to block out any of the available light as the seed starts to germinate for you in there. So we've gone ahead and done that with our 4 seeds. We're going to let those sit for about 5 to 7 days. In the meantime, they'll end up popping up through the soil. And if we feel that they have any issues with the top, we'll make some adjustments at that point. But for the most part, shouldn't need to make any adjustments either. Bear with me one moment while I dip out for some clones. Dip. A couple of clones to get started here. All right. So these clones were actually from Alerta Genetics. They weren't actually, the seed started from Alerta Genetics. So we've got a couple of 1,000 oaks cuttings here. Smells fantastic, even in vegetative form. So we're going to take this clone. It's already had the ends shaved here. We've been having it sitting in a little bit of aloe water for a few hours. We're just going to go ahead and poke it right into the soil. Be careful when you do that. You don't want to damage the stem in the process. From here, in about 7 to 10 days, this clone is going to root. Another 5 days or so, you're going to start seeing some additional vegetative growth. And then another week or so after that, the clone will be ready to be transplanted. Again, as I mentioned previously, when you transplant these pots, one of the benefits of using a biodegradable pot is you do not have to remove it from the pot. Simply put the smaller pot right into your larger pot, surround it with your soil, and you're good to go. Let's do another one real quick before we get out of here. Super simple and easy. That's it. Additional tips. Use non-chlorinated water, preferably well or spring water. Keep your soil field consistency throughout the entire rooting process for best results. And make sure to use the same lights that you would otherwise be flowering with for the most vigorous results possible. Thanks for tuning into Grower's Guide. Hopefully now you have a general idea on how to create a nice and simple seed starting mix for both seeds and clones. If you have any questions or concerns regarding today's segment or would like to set up a consultation appointment, please reach out to us at vermontgrowcoach.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram or contact us directly at 802-342-5381.
All right, that's another great segment from Thomas, especially this time of year because we're all just crops drop with the meeting now everything starting over again, right? A lot of people talk about starting seeds, and you talk about so it's a great thing. Get a lot of tips there.
Can't really hear you, Joe. Your mic's a
Your
little
audio
loud.
is screwed.
Your audio's got a lot of feedback.
Oh, well, let me change some settings here real quick. There it goes. I don't know why my computer
Turn that
doesn't.
gain
There you
down.
go.
There you go. That's better.
That
That's
works.
better.
All right, we're back. I'll step away from the mic as well. Great tips again. We're talking about getting our indoor cultivations going. A lot of people just got done their outdoor. A lot of people are afraid of starting with seeds, and you kind of give them great tips. What about seeds, though? We talk about seeds a lot on the show with feminized and non-feminized and things like that. Pretty much any seed, any method, right? We can go into the soil and be started there, correct?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much whether you're working with an autoflower seed or a regular seed, a fem seed, no matter what method you're starting with, starting out with a nice seed starting soil mix like this is fantastic. And people will always ask, do I have to do the paper towel method? Do I have to do the water glass method to confirm that my seed is viable or to have a taproot first? If you only have 1 or 2 seeds of a strain and you spent $10 or $15 a seed, yes, you should do the water glass method. Yes, you should do the paper towel method and ensure that you have the most viability possible. But if you noticed in that video, I had a giant quart jar size jar there, completely full to the brim of seed, all of the exact same strains. So I'm not too worried about the viability in that respect. So if you have the ability to pop a few seeds at a time, I just put them right into the soil, because when it comes down to it, you can even put in 2 seeds per hole to ensure that you're not wasting a site and still get nice results after just a few days. Whereas when you're working with the water glass or paper towel method, you potentially damaging the taproot during transport.
Now, how long does it normally take for somebody to figure out if it's a male or female after you start from a seed? I mean, a lot of people, that's a question. Some people buy feminized seeds, and it's not always a guarantee, right?
Right. So when it comes down to it, there are, depending on the strain, depending on the individual phenotype of that strain, it may be 3 to 4 weeks, usually, sometimes up to 6 weeks before a plant will actually start showing pre-flowers and sex. So that actually means that when you're starting from seed, you could go a month or longer of actually growing this plant before you actually realize whether or not it's female. Now, there are some ways to trick your plant into showing pre-flowers early by stressing them or putting them into a flowering light cycle to help initiate pre-flowers. But for the most part, you are going to be able to diagnose some pre-flowers, maybe 2 to 3 weeks into the vegetative cycle. But for most people, especially beginners, you're really going to be able to start telling once you're about a month to a month and a half into the actual grow.
Mm-hmm. And that's another whole scenario, is how to tell a male from a female, which I'm sure we'll go over another segment, and it can be found easily. But it's basically based on what, Tom?
So for the most part, females are going to have pistils or white hairs on the plants, whereas the males will develop actual sacs that look more like footballs. Eventually that will open up looking more like banana peels. The individual calyxes or the individual initial pre-flowers before the actual hairs will start to come out on a female will look a little bit more like a scorpion tail than that of a male. In that respect, though, there are also several different companies that offer a testing option where you can actually take leaves after you've seen your first true set of leaves on your seedling and cut off a piece of your leaf and send it away to this testing lab and have them determine whether or not it's male or female for you before you end up wasting the time. So for people like those of us in Vermont that are limited to growing 6 plants and only 2 flowering at a time, an option like that, although a little pricey, is great to be able to determine the sex way before you otherwise would and be able to get the plant out of there if it ends up being male.
Right. A lot of great tips there. Again, I mean, that's the biggest question that people are concerned with. That's one thing we always want to make sure people understand. Even though you buy a feminized seed, it doesn't mean anything. The last thing you really want in your grow is a male plant, unless you're looking for males, right?
Oh, and everybody needs to make sure that they follow Vermont Grow Coaching on Instagram, because around Thanksgiving we are going to be issuing out 100 free packs of GMB 77 crossed with blueberry. So watch out for that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's going to be great. Those are that's a great cross and a cross and a cross right there, right? If you guys don't know about the GMB 77, Chef actually did a review on it, which you can find on our YouTube page back in
that was his skunk #1. I'm waiting for that Green Mountain Boy.
He's waiting on GMB 77. I gotta make another drive out there. It's been a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Just shoot out to Michigan, right? No, great strains again. That again, we love to educate people on how to grow your own, and this is a great way of doing it, guys. We try bringing your tips in with the scheduled times that we should be talking about stuff. Seeds, you can find anywhere. You can grab them locally, online, stuff like that. Legality wise, we'll have Tim explain that a little bit later. It's a weird area as far as seed sales go, right? Tim, can people just go buy seeds? Like, what's the deal behind buying seeds at this point?
Sure, go buy seeds. Seeds are technically illegal, under pretty much every definition of marijuana there is. But how do you prosecute it? How do you, I mean, Andrew and I joked that in order to sustain a prosecution, the prosecutor would have to grow the seed. We're going to hold this off for 12 to 14 weeks while I grow this, and then we'll see. I mean, so we've never seen a seed prosecution. Seeds are sold relatively openly. You can buy them online. You can order them from Amsterdam or California. And that's on the spectrum of risk, very low, probably slightly below Delta 8.
Mm. Right. I mean, that's the other thing. Everybody talks about seeds. Where can we buy seeds? Can we buy them online? Stuff like that. Again, we just want to make sure that people understand that there is legality to seeds right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's technically you could be charged, but I can't imagine the prosecution. And honestly, I can't imagine a jury having any patience when they heard they're there, interrupting their day, interrupting their work schedule to come in and to hear a case about seeds.
Well, especially when it comes down to it.
I don't think there's a risk there.
Right.
When it comes down to it, you can grow a plant that would otherwise show up as a high THC strain and have it produce more CBD, or have it be closer to 1-to-1, and vice versa with a hemp strain. If you really butcher a CBD strain and you don't take care of it properly, and it's sitting in a bunch of clay and it goes too long in the field, you're ending up with something much closer to a 1-to-1 in the end. So at that point, they could then be prosecuting people who are otherwise selling hemp seed too at that point.
Right. But my biggest question is in states like Mass, where it's legal, like we'll use Mass as an example, like it's legal to cultivate cannabis, right, on your own. You can grow your own, but is it illegal still to buy seeds? Like that's the interesting part. You know what I mean? Can I go buy my legal allotment of seeds and that's okay? Where's that weird line draw? You know what I mean?
I mean, for Vermont, that'll be dictated by our Cannabis Control Commission. That's generally, dictated by any whatever administrative bodies handling the medical or adult use programs. In states where marijuana is legal, I mean, obviously the seeds are just as illegal. But again, practically, from my perspective, impossible to prosecute. How do you prosecute that? We're saying this is an illegal marijuana seed. I mean, it's not practical, and I think that the courts would view it as a waste of their time. I know a jury would view it as a waste of their time. So seeds, are one of those things. They'll just wait. They'll wait for it to grow, then they can bust you.
Right. It's just like we said. It's a crazy world we live in the way they roll out these laws. Like we can grow in our state, but you can't start with a seed.
Even here, like I've told you the story about what we're doing. We're up in Essex County now with the quadriplegic gentleman who was raided for growing medicine. And unfortunately, even in states where you're legal, you're still seeing. California is notorious for still conducting a lot of raids. So it's like we need to keep fighting. It's just you can't give up. Like every time we hear these ballot initiatives passing, that's fantastic, and that's one battle in the war. Well, the war ain't over. We still got a long way to go. There's still people locked up. There's still people being arrested. There's still people who are having law enforcement officers with automatic rifles kicking their doors in when their kids are playing video games. Unfortunately, this is still happening. So we, that's we just got to keep fighting. We get an inch, we take another inch. Get another inch, we take another inch. And until this prohibition is over, done with, the fight's never going to be given up, man.
Right, but how do you feel about the current state today that we're in right now? I think we have a positive push. I think we have a lot of support.
We're in the right direction. We're definitely going in the right direction. There's no question about that. We're definitely going in the right direction. The momentum's behind us. The opinions behind us. The science is now getting behind us. And I think that, hopefully we can, we're going to be seeing more and more and more states legalize. We're going to see more and more of these decriminalization measures be brought up. And, as much as the powers that be might not like it, it's what's happening. It's what the people want. And theoretically, we're supposed to be able to, have some say in our governance. So I hope things continue the way they're going.
Well, I'd hate to think that some of these people have to be feeling a little pressure, sitting in a hot seat where at some point they're just going to get voted out, right? I mean, we're seeing support from the people's end now, you know what I mean? And now we're starting to see legislative support in some states, which here in Vermont we had, right? But the people's voice is really powerful when it all comes together, right? So guys, keep your voices going, keep pushing your politicians, your senators, your federal government, keep writing those letters, keep making those phone calls, keep making your voices heard, because the squeaky wheel always gets the grease. That's all we can say, right? We're kind of coming to the close of the show. Again, huge congratulations to all our 5 states that have pushed for legalization in some forms.
Hell yeah.
Huge shout out to DC. Like we said, DC is a fuck show that no one understands, but somehow they're legalizing everything. We can't get the government to look at it.
I just found this out real quick there for a minute. So what happens is they do pass this initiative. It then goes to Congress. It has a 30-day time period before it becomes enacted, and Congress has a chance to block it, which is what they did with DC's medical marijuana bill. I just found that real quick. So there is a process. Who knows what's going to happen with our federal government, Christ. But the fact that they passed it, and it was astronomical. It was like 70 to 20. Yeah, I mean, almost 80% in favor.
Now, when you say their Congress, now that's their state Congress, right? Not the federal.
No, that's the federal Congress. See, the DC is its own weird little thing. All of its policy is overseen by Congress, by the federal government oversees DC policy. So DC can vote on policy, but it has to be approved by Congress. Right. They have the right to, nix it if they want.
Well, the positive thing there is that we've seen the congressional support.
And DC police say it is now their lowest priority. So even if they were to nix necessarily the actual statutory decriminalization, de facto decriminalization occurs when the police say, we're not going to fuck with this anymore. And then we're there. So that's again, it's huge. Let's keep this momentum going. Don't give up. Everybody keep.
Well, at least we've seen the support in Congress for cannabis legalization. So hopefully DC is well on their way. Hopefully they don't block this measure, because that'd be a complete hypocritical movement, especially with like the MORE Act and the acts that got pushed to the Senate right now, right?
And with the amount of popular vote. Remember, our government forgets it's supposed to be working for us. It's supposed to be representing us. So when a majority of people feel a certain way, one would think the mechanism of government. But anyway, yes, let's hope it. And then keep it going. Keep it going. And if they block it, put it on again for next year, and just don't give up the fight.
Nice. I mean, that's what we can say. I mean, we were talking about voting. Now we get the votes in, and it's closed. We've seen the support. We've seen the positivity out of it. And now, we now know what we have to focus on again. Like you said, Pennsylvania and the surrounding states and all these states that didn't quite make it. They're on the cusp. We're going to get those guys legalized, and then we're going to knock on the federal door again and say, look at us, right? And at this point in time, it's not much to say, because all they really need to do is relinquish the power back to the states, which are already enacting their own laws, right?
That was the original States Act, trying to empowering states, which was trying to sell to the more conservative members of the legislature. States' rights, right? States' rights, good for abortion, it's good for cannabis. Right. But now the MORE Act has really replaced it, because the MORE Act is a lot more comprehensive, and it includes expungements, which is something that the States Act did not include. The States Act also did not reclassify for the purposes of 280E. Where the MORE Act does. So you're seeing a lot of support shift from the States Act to the MORE Act, with the expectation that we would be looking at a new majority leader and a new majority holding the Senate. Now that the Republicans look to be holding the Senate, I expect that people are going to kind of go back to the States Act now. But, it wasn't so bad after all. Because again, that would be the only chance to have passed, and even that is very, it's 100 to 1. And Safe Banking Act, that's, if we're going to see anything, we'll do the Safe Banking Act, which will be great. Hey, banks, debit cards, payroll, normal business stuff. Be nice.
Right. Yeah. And then all the structures fall in line to create a sustainable marketplace, right? Where we don't have to worry about, testing and all these issues that we see with products and marketing and being truthful on labels, I guess, is the next best thing. Guys, the show's kind of coming to an end. We're gonna do Chef Rodney's setup here. We're glad that Shadi's still with us, and we want to announce the winner of her book. So we do have Kristen Canal, who's going to be winning the book today, guys. So congratulations to you.
Congratulations.
That's my host wife.
Then you know who it is already, right?
I'm so happy. That's my girl.
So
Sweet.
we'll get you two in contact somehow, right? And make sure
you gotta get them in contact and know each other.
How did you pick?
That's awesome. Well, congratulations to Kristen. Huge congratulations. That's awesome. We love the support of the book. We can't wait to get all our books in order here. But now, Chef, it's a strain of the week. So we talked about cooking. We've talked about strains. We talked about all the importance. Let's line up the strain of the week for us, brother.
Knock it out of the park.
All right, listen. So if we're going to talk about believing in things, this strain of the week, man, it made me really kind of consider the word Jesus. All right, I covered Jesus OG this week, and it's funny because I learned it takes two demons to create an angel, okay, if you will, because you've got Hell's OG where it comes from, and then you've got, what was the other one? It was like Hell OG and I think Jack the Ripper. Two non-heavenly things, you know what I mean, created Jesus OG. I mean, it's just, I didn't really include any pictures this week because as soon as I got it, well, the video speaks for itself. It didn't last very long.
All right, guys. Well, here's the Chef Rodney strain of the week. We'll be back right after the segment to sign off and give Shadi a chance to tell everybody where you can find the book again. Guys, here it is, strain of the week. Chef Rodney of Deliciously Dope TV.
What up, Canna fam? It's your boy, Chef Rodney 117 here from Deliciously Dope, bringing you another Deliciously Dope strain of the week. This week, we have Jesus OG from the Hemp Collective in Clare, Michigan. Now, coming in at around 20% THC, this strain is an indica-dominant hybrid. 20% sativa, 80% indica is the split on this, y'all. Coming from parents with the names Jack the Ripper and Hell's OG, this strain is actually pretty heavenly, which makes it pretty on point for the name, ergo Jesus OG. But please note that it does sound like it came from hell, though. So you guys, please remember that. I'm joking. The internet dubs this one the Unholy Alliance, and believe you me, I can tell you, holy hell. The terpenes found in Jesus OG. Really, there's just three main terpenes, and we've heard of these guys before, but these ones a little bit more of I tried to narrow down. So, I'm going to tell you the terpene name, and then I'm going to tell you how I describe it. Limonene is the first terpene found in Jesus OG. That's like a lemon household cleaner that you can smoke. Now, do not go out and smoke house cleaner. Don't do that. But no, that's really that's kind of the gassy smell. Yeah, it's kind of like the gassy undertones of this, if you will. Or the wafty, hints that tinge your nose a little. Caryophyllene. Earthy, skunk, danky, cushy is really where, I went with that one. And humulene, which is very hoppy, with like an ammonia tang, but sort of fruity. Yeah, okay. I'm going to just start saying it like that, because that makes me be able to smell it, sort of. Some medical benefits of Jesus OG. Okay, listen. This one isn't going to raise anything from the dead, okay? It's not how this works. You can't just touch and heal your sins, although after smoking this or consuming this, you're going to feel that way. Red ATV. Get this straight in there. I smoke it. This helps you to feel calm and collected smoking focus. Now It sounds like I'm underwater.
Yeah, the audio's low.
Unfortunately, that's it's the edit on the video.
That's stupid as hell. Damn it. The flavor of Jesus OG is one of its own for sure.
If you crank up your volume, you can hear it fine. But then when Joe talks, it's like an earthquake.
Fruity household cleaner that you could smoke. That's the best way that I can absolutely describe that to you. All right, kind of gassy, you feel it. But you have to say this: we live in 2020. If you go out and you smoke, actual household cleaner.
Joe, turn up whatever audio you turned up when my video was going, and then just make
It's
sure you
all
turn it.
maxed. It's all maxed. The first half of the video we could hear, unfortunately. That's kind of unfortunate on that.
It'll
part, 'cause
sound
it's-
better on YouTube.
Yes, hopefully. And unfortunately, we're missing a lot of the great content to it. So
No, I smoked it after that point. I mean, long story short, like we were talking about earlier,
LDR, I'm smoking.
yeah. You know, it's just Jesus' OG is a good go-to if you have ADD. It helps you, you know, kind of calm down. A lot of people body buzzes, you know, they use it for that. Anti-inflammatory, antibacterial was one of the things that I read about it. So I mean, honestly, I'm a believer now.
Well, we'll repost that. We'll work on it. Maybe we'll do another quick re-edit of it so we can get it on YouTube so everybody can hear it, because there's a lot of good information. I could barely hear it. Unfortunately, we did everything maxed out on my end.
That's because I was in heaven.
Like I said, I could barely hear it as well. So, guys, again, you can find it on YouTube. We'll be putting it back on the Facebook page as well as this show and Thomas's Grower's Guide as well. So if you guys want to rehear this information, be able to use it and again utilize it for your grow or your cooking or your whatever you're doing with it, you can find it and access it very easily. Now, Shadi, thank you again for coming on to the show today. We were stoked to have you, and you stayed, which is great. I know you had like a time limit earlier. Hopefully you enjoyed your time with the show. Great discussion today. We really appreciate you coming on because you do hit a lot of topics that we do not discuss enough. Is, you know, our nutrition, how cannabis can really be a part of that. And I don't want to say affect it, but be a part of it, because, you know, as we all know about our endocannabinoid system and we learn more and more about it, there is, we realize that cannabis is really a part of that, right? Like it can really answer a lot of those questions, and there's other plants and herbs and stuff out there that also have an effect. But if you guys haven't heard about your endocannabinoid system yet, or that's a word that you don't really, you're like, what the hell are these guys talking about? Go Google
that shit.
There's a ton of information right there. It's very valuable to what you're doing in life, right? So if you can incorporate in your diet and make it into a mainstream of your life, you're going to see huge benefits, both mentally, physically, and just in your well-being. We talk about it a lot, but a lot of people still are, again, there's stigmas on eating cannabis, right? There's stigmas on eating a leaf off a plant, right? We laugh at our cats and dogs when they do it, but it's good for everybody, right? Even our animals, we're seeing research talking about it as feed, especially even hemp seed, right? And then that's going to be on an industrial level soon. So the plant has a lot of vitality to it, and the cookbook is amazing. I can't wait to get my hands on one and make a few recipes. And like you said, it's something like, you know, it's a niche book. It's a higher end of looking at things. It's in a market that we don't discuss enough and we don't see enough in our industry. Yeah, we can go buy oil at a gas station, but this is a lot different. You know, this brings it into your home. This shows you how to utilize a product, and you know, hemp hearts, hemp
Great
seeds,
in my
oil.
collection.
Yes. Yes. And as a chef, I can't wait to get my hands on it. So, Shadi, again, just a little outro for you. Tell everybody where they can find the book, and why they should buy it. I mean, it's an amazing book.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. Everybody was really nice, and I loved our time together, and I can't wait to hug everybody in person, hopefully in Vermont at my farm dinner in July. We could all be together. Everybody's invited. And yeah, you can buy the book on www.hempcanchangetheworld.com. And yeah, I think that, you know, it's a really good time to be buying gifts for people and supporting local and supporting women and cinnamon girls, and to buy my book would be to supporting that and supporting a great cause and giving towards the Last Prisoner Project. And you know, right now when we like have the opportunity to vote with our dollars, certainly around the holidays. So I think there's a couple really good reasons right there. And to like increase your vitality and feed your vibe with hemp, I think is something that we all can benefit from right now.
Yes, we all need to
Wonderful reasons. Wonderful reasons.
You know, it's 100% carbon neutral. It's printed on hemp paper, which is a unique thing to it. So it's almost a collector's edition book. I'm probably gonna order two, one so I can get messy and one that I can just leave on my shelf. Which we say, because you know it's a force for good, it's a force for health. And go to the website, guys. There's a lot of great information about Shadi, the book, and the benefits of cooking with cannabis. And like I said, if you have any questions, I'm sure you're easy to reach out to. Contacts are there. And hopefully we see you in a city near us really, really soon, because again, I want to experience a dinner. I want to experience a book. And again, thank you for coming on today. And huge congratulations for getting this product out there. This is an amazing feat.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And I want to say thank you to all the co-hosts today. Timothy Fair, Vermont Cannabis Solutions. Thank you for coming on and talking politics again with us today. I know it's been a long time brewing for us. We're glad we're here today. We still have a couple days to figure out the rest of the major plans, you know, federally, but hopefully we'll get that accomplished with no riots, no wars, no legal issues. You know, like let's just get this going, get our president back on board. Let's see where we can get our legalization to, because again, I think everybody needs to smoke a joint after this last couple days.
Absolutely right.
Chef Rodney, thank you to you again. Deliciously Dope TV. Huge shout out to you guys and all the projects you're working. And guys, check out Chef Rodney's show. He's doing a bi-weekly show every Tuesday and Thursday now on the Deliciously Dope TV.
Yeah, no, every Tuesday and Thursday at 10:17 every morning. It's called Deliciously Dope's Daily Chronicles. Tomorrow we have Jimmy Kang of Wu-Tang Management and Straight Up Entertainment. He's coming on to talk about, you know, a little bit of we're just going to talk about cannabinoids and stuff like that.
You know Jimmy well. He's a good friend of mine. We go back a long time, so he's a great conversation. He also does a cannabis show, guys. Cannabis 101. If you guys ever check it out.
Cannabis 101.
Wednesdays 1 o'clock. They're great. Lauren, Jimmy. It's a great show. They talk to a lot of the great guys, and they have great perspectives on a lot of things. So it's another great show that we are fully cooperative and supportive of. Next week, guys, we have Sarah Williams coming on, which will be another great show. So we can't wait to talk to her. She's up in Alaska, so she's doing a huge hemp project. And then again, Thomas Markholm, our Vermont Growers Guide segment producer, host, confidant, Vermont Growers Coaching, guys. Check him out.
We're gonna make lip balm next week, Joe.
Lip balm? Yeah. Ooh, lip balm. Getting ready for the winter, guys. I like that. So, guys, again, all of our segments can be found on YouTube. Go find us. Go support us. We're working on getting all of our segments over to the WeedTube, the Masters of Cannabis, so you guys can find us there as well. And, guys, any questions, reach out. Educate yourselves. Google and get educated right now. We'll be back next week. We can't wait. Shadi, thank you again. That's it, guys. That's all I got.
Peace. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.